Hey, some more packages arrived today, Hugo called out. What's in them? I asked. Oh, just some fishing gear. A colleague at work invited me to go fishing, so I bought some new stuff. Fishing gear? I felt uneasy seeing my husband Hugo's excitement. Didn't you buy fishing gear when we first got married and never used it? I was too busy to go, but that old gear is outdated. If I'm going, I need new stuff. I see. Is there a problem with that? Hugo's tone became defensive. It's not that, but my colleague was kind enough to invite me. I can't just say no. I have work, you know. I can't dwell on sentiment like you do. I understood what Hugo was saying, but it was hard to believe we were a couple sharing the same sorrow when he seemed so happy, like nothing had happened. I'm Cynthia, 33 years old, and we've been married for 6 years. Hugo was making these fishing plans just 2 months after our daughter passed away. I still couldn't get over my grief, but I couldn't understand how Hugo seemed so unaffected. My father-in-law, Wilson, passed away in our 2nd year of marriage. He adored his granddaughter and loved her more than anything. I wonder if they're together in heaven now. That's the only thought that comforts me. Before he died, Wilson told me, don't let Hugo and your mother-in-law Rachel handle the money. I realized after getting married that Hugo and Rachel are big spenders. They spend without thinking if they have money. That's why Wilson always managed the finances. Wilson was a gentle soul, always looking out for me. Having no family of my own, he was like a real father to me, and his death hit me hard. Our daughter, Laura, was born a year after our marriage. She was such a bright and cheerful girl, always bringing light into our lives. Mom, everyone's so jealous of my packed lunch. I bet it's the best in preschool. Then Mom will have to try even harder. Mom, can I ask for a little favor? What is it? Can you make more food for my next packed lunch? I want to eat more. Can you eat that much? I won't leave any, I promise. Okay, I'll do it. The following month, Laura's preschool teacher quietly told me something. There was a child in class who never had a mom and whose dad was too busy with work to make a packed lunch, always bringing just a supermarket sandwich and an apple. Laura had been sharing her packed lunch with this child. Laura's packed lunch is more than I can eat, so please help me eat it, she would say, splitting it in half. Hearing this, I was so proud of Laura. Such a kind and wonderful child. Every expression of Laura's, her angry face, her crying face, and her brightest smiles, were all treasures to me. And then one day, that treasure was suddenly gone. The night before, Laura went to bed as usual, just a bit earlier than normal. I'm sleepy, she said, but I just thought she was tired from preschool. After watching Laura start to breathe softly in her sleep, I left the bed. Usually Laura and I sleep together. After Laura fell asleep, I cleaned up dinner, took a shower after Rachel did, finished cleaning the shower room, and by the time I returned to the bedroom, it was almost midnight. Hugo was away on a business trip that night. Laura was lying quietly in bed. I thought she was sleeping well, but as I was about to get into bed, I noticed something was wrong. I couldn't hear Laura's breathing. What? I reached out to touch Laura's cheek. It was noticeably colder than usual. Laura, what's wrong? Laura was completely unresponsive. I couldn't understand what was happening, but I knew I had to call an ambulance. I jumped in with Laura, clutching her cold hand. As soon as the paramedics saw her, I noticed a grim expression on their faces. One of them began as they rushed her to the hospital. Laura, you'll be okay, right? You'll get better once we're at the hospital, right? I repeated these words to myself, desperately hoping they were true. But when we arrived, the first thing the doctor said was, I'm terribly sorry, but she's already gone. I became frantic, begging the doctor to examine Laura over and over. It couldn't be true. She was fine before bed. The cause was unknown. These sudden events can happen even with small children, the doctor said. I had heard such things before, but never imagined it could happen to my own child. Laura and I had only lived together for 4 short years. I thought we had decades ahead of us. I couldn't believe she was suddenly gone. Overwhelmed, I panicked and passed out. When I woke up, Hugo and Rachel were there, having been notified of what happened. I realized I had forgotten to call Rachel when I left the house. Where's Laura? I hoped it was all a bad dream, but Hugo gestured that she was gone. How can this be? Neither Hugo nor Rachel said anything, but their eyes seemed to confirm my worst fears. For a while, I was almost catatonic. I cried looking at Laura's things, cried watching her favorite cartoons, and cried remembering her in everything I did. At first, Hugo didn't say anything, but gradually he began to sigh audibly and mutter, "She's so morbid." Rachel too started to nag me. "Hey, how long are you going to be in a daze? Housework is Cynthia's job, isn't it? Could you please get it together?" "I'm sorry," I said, knowing I shouldn't be like this. But my heart was heavy and I just couldn't function as efficiently as before. Yet, as they say, time heals. About 6 months later, I started to manage the daily routines normally again. Hugo did cry a bit at the funeral, but he was never what you would call a doting father. He preferred playing games over spending time with Laura, which is why she wasn't very attached to him. Maybe Hugo wasn't as heartbroken because he didn't feel much of a connection as a parent. But who else will mourn for Laura, our daughter who only lived for 4 years, if not her parents? About a month after Laura's death, Hugo returned to his usual spendthrift self, enjoying shopping and browsing the web. When Laura died, both Hugo and Rachel looked at me as if it was my fault, like they were silently blaming me. But they didn't say anything, probably because they weren't as heartbroken about her absence as I was. I didn't expect them to grieve the same way, but I wish Hugo, as a parent who lost a child, would have been more supportive. Rachel, on the other hand, went back to her routine within a week. She resumed shopping, going out with friends, and laughing as if Laura had never existed. When Laura was born, Rachel frowned upon seeing her face. "She looks more like Cynthia than Hugo. We can't expect much from her future," she would say. She often ignored Laura and seemed reluctant to interact with her, probably not feeling any special affection. She didn't shed a tear at the funeral. Their attitudes have always been a point of contention for me. Almost a year passed since Laura's death, and seeing Hugo and Rachel happily shopping, I felt an indescribable frustration. They never talked to Laura's picture. How could they act so normally? It seemed like we couldn't understand each other at all. Then one day, Hugo and Rachel suggested we go out together. "Where are we going?" I asked. "How about somewhere with fresh air to change our mood?" Hugo suggested. "Cynthia, you've been just going between home and the supermarket since Laura passed. That's why you're so down." "I've been worried about you too, Cynthia," Rachel added. "You've been so down." "Worried, you, Rachel?" "Of course. Cynthia is the wife of our dear son. I've been trying hard for your sake." I couldn't fully believe that, but a part of me felt a little happy to hear it. "How about hiking for a change?" Hugo continued. "Going somewhere with fresh air might lift your spirits. I want you to feel a bit better." "You really thought that?" "Of course, I'm your husband. It's natural to worry about my wife." "But you didn't seem that down." "I was holding it together. If I got down too, the house would become too gloomy. So let's go hiking." I wondered if they really cared, but it was hard to believe. "Laura would want you to be happy, Cynthia. Think of this as a tribute to her," Hugo said. That moved me. I knew Laura wouldn't want me to cry forever. That's something I've always known in my head. "But I've never hiked before," I said. "Don't worry, even I can climb it. It's more like a light hike," Hugo reassured me. "Well, if Hugo and Rachel insist." "Great, I'm looking forward to it." So I agreed to go hiking with Hugo and Rachel. We drove to the foot of the mountain and started our ascent. It was a sunny day and many people were around, which felt reassuring. But as we reached the midway point, the crowd thinned, despite being told it was a beginner's course. I was surprised by the roughness of the terrain, yet Hugo and Rachel walked with ease, familiar with the area. "Hey, let's take this path," Hugo suggested. "Ha! Yeah, it looks less crowded. Let's go that way," Rachel agreed. "But shouldn't we follow the path everyone else is taking?" I asked, feeling uneasy. "It's fine. I've been here before and know the way. This path is straightforward, and you can't get lost," Hugo reassured me. "If Hugo says it's okay, then it must be," Rachel added. "Trust me, there's a really scenic spot just ahead, Cynthia. You'll be amazed." Before finishing his sentence, Hugo started walking down the path, followed by Rachel. Reluctantly, I followed them. But the further we went, the more rugged the path became, almost like a trail for animals rather than a proper path. "Wait, are you sure we're on the right path? Can we really get through here?" I asked, my concern growing. "Don't worry, we'll reach a wider path soon. Just keep up," Hugo said confidently. Hugo and Rachel continued, seemingly sure of themselves. Rachel, now 60, was surprisingly nimble, walking more effortlessly than I was. Soon they were far ahead, their figures intermittently visible through the dense foliage. "Wait, don't leave me behind here," I called out. Hurry up. We'll run out of daylight. Hugo's voice echoed from the distance. I hurried, but couldn't catch up. Their heads, once visible, were now out of sight. Hugo, Rachel, I called out in fear, but no reply came. As I moved forward, I lost sight of them completely. I didn't know which way to go. What should I do? I was lost, the words stranded, echoing in my mind. This can't be happening. Maybe I should have stayed put, thinking Hugo would come back for me. But as time passed, neither Hugo nor Rachel appeared. There was no sign of anyone approaching. Knowing I couldn't just stand there, I started walking again, filled with fear. My anxiety grew as I realized I couldn't tell which way was which. I decided to retrace my steps, but even finding my own tracks on this unmarked path was a challenge. I felt like I was getting deeper into the wilderness. Panicking, I stumbled several times, each fall draining more energy. Soon, the surroundings began to darken, and my anxiety intensified. If night fell, I wouldn't be able to descend. The temperature dropped as evening approached. It was late March, but the nights were still cold, especially in the mountains. What would happen if I had to spend the night here? Exhausted, I collapsed against a large tree. I can't go on, I voiced my despair. Thoughts of this being the end of my life crept in, my consciousness fading. In my dimming awareness, I heard a voice I had longed to hear. Mom, Mom. Shocked, I opened my eyes. There was my dear Laura. Laura, is that you? Laura smiled at me. Ah, I must be in heaven, I thought hazily. I reached out to hug Laura, but she seemed to slip through my arms, flying away. Laura, Mom is over here. Laura turned and started running. Wait, I reflexively stood up to follow Laura, feeling strangely energized despite my earlier exhaustion. This couldn't be the real world, but if it meant holding Laura again, I didn't care if it was a dream. When I thought of that, I naturally felt motivated. I felt invigorated and chased after Laura. Laura, wait, I called. Laura turned back, smiling. It felt like playing tag with Laura, a joyful feeling. Before I knew it, I had reached the foot of the mountain, and Laura was gone. Laura, where are you? Laura was nowhere to be seen. Had I just seen an illusion? Then someone shone a flashlight on me. Are you okay? I got lost on the trail. Are you hurt? Thank you, I'm fine. My family must be waiting for me. I headed down to the parking lot at the foot of the mountain, but our car wasn't there. Had Hugo and Rachel left without me? No way. As I stood there dumbfounded, I saw a faint image of Laura where her car should have been. Laura. I ran towards her, but my body passed right through. I couldn't embrace her. Laura looked sad, as if she wanted to tell me something. I felt she had a message for me. Then I realized something was very wrong. If we had been separated, they would have reported me missing. The area should have been in an uproar, but no one seemed to be looking for me. The parking lot was silent and deserted. Did Hugo and Rachel not even try to find me? What does this mean? Laura must have appeared to show me this. I went to the station and took a train home. I noticed people staring at me curiously, but I was too preoccupied to care. I quietly opened the door and peeked inside. I could hear Hugo and Rachel's voices, unnaturally cheerful. I sneaked into the next room and observed them through a gap in the sliding door. They were drinking and laughing, unconcerned that I hadn't returned. We did it. No more of her depressing face, Hugo said. Wonder how she's doing now, shivering in the mountains. Just thinking about it makes me laugh. Cynthia is so slow, she'll never make it back, Rachel added. It's going to be extra cold tonight. Imagine her alone and cold out there. We'll tell people she ran off with another man, then file a missing person report. When will we get the insurance money? Hugo asked. It'll take a few years before she's declared legally missing. If only her body was found, we'd get it faster. Let's say she called from the mountain. Then they'll find her sooner. My son is so clever, Rachel praised. Hearing this, I trembled with anger. I couldn't believe they had planned this. I listened to their conversation, unnoticed. I was a fool to ever think of them as family. Make sure to cry at the funeral, Hugo said. You didn't shed a tear for Laura. Well, I wasn't sad. Laura wasn't cute. She looked just like Cynthia. Rachel replied, I never wanted kids. They're just annoying. Hearing this, I burst open the sliding door. Hugo and Rachel looked at me in surprise, their expressions frozen in shock. Hugo backed up against the wall while Rachel covered her head with a throw. I realized I must have looked like a ghost covered in mud, with torn clothes and scratches. I decided to play along. I'll haunt you. I declared, my voice echoing through the room. They shivered in fear. It wasn't me. Blame Hugo, Rachel yelled. What? You agreed. Mom was the one laughing about how cold it must be. Hugo protested. It's not my fault. Haunt her. Hugo pleaded. Hugo, selling out your own mother. What if I get haunted? Rachel said, terrified. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Please go to heaven. They begged, beyond reason. They must have really thought they had sent me to the afterlife. I'm still very much alive, I said, lifting my foot to show them. They looked utterly bewildered. What was your plan, leaving me in the middle of the mountains? I just wanted to fulfill your wish, Hugo stammered. You wanted to see Laura, right? I thought I'd send you to her. It was out of kindness. I was speechless. Did they really think that excuse would hold up? I heard your entire conversation, I informed them. Their faces turned even paler. Of course, I'll be divorcing Hugo. I can't stay here, not with my life on the line. Too bad you won't get the insurance money. I recorded your conversation. I'm taking it to the police. What? I'll consult a lawyer, and you'll face the consequences. Cynthia's fine, right? We didn't commit any crime. I won't let this go unpunished. Perhaps it was seeing Laura that gave me strength or knowing their evil intentions, but I felt a newfound power within me. I wasn't going to lose. Rachel, still unable to believe I was alive, peeked out from under her throw at Hugo, and me, still trembling. On the contrary, I wanted to ask myself, do I look that much like a ghost? I didn't bother with their stunned faces and began gathering my belongings to leave the house. I had no destination in mind but managed to find a no-frills hotel. I was grateful for the savings I had hidden before marriage. Hugo and Rachel didn't know I had savings. They would have demanded it if they did. The next day, I visited the police and a lawyer's office. Abandoning a healthy adult in the mountains might not constitute abandonment, but intentionally leaving someone in a dangerous place was illegal. Some punishment was inevitable. My lawyer said I could claim damages for emotional distress. My recording of their conversation led to their arrest for fraud and assault, resulting in a criminal sentence. The divorce was finalized and I claimed compensation and damages. I had secretly saved money just as Wilson advised, slowly transferring small amounts from our living expenses account to another one. Even though the savings were from after marriage, all payments were made to me, leaving Hugo with nothing. I found a place to live and a job. I'll never overcome the grief of losing Laura, but I cherish the happy memories we shared. As long as I have these memories, I won't be lonely. Laura saved my life. She wanted me to live. I'm the only one who can cherish her memories. I'm not alone. Laura's smiling face is always with me. Mom, I love your smile, Laura often said. So I'll keep smiling. The smile Laura loved, and move forward.
The day my sister Laura told me I wasn't really family because I'd never married was also the day I remembered what Grandma Isabel had whispered to me on her deathbed. But I'm getting ahead of myself. My name is Peyton, and until last Tuesday, I thought being a successful architect at 34 meant I had my life together. I was wrong. You can't be serious, I said, staring at the papers Laura had thrust into my hands. We were sitting in her pristine kitchen, the afternoon sun streaming through windows I'd actually designed for her renovation last year. You're cutting me out of your will because I'm single? Laura smoothed her silk blouse, a gesture she'd perfected over years of delivering uncomfortable truths. It's not just about being single, Peyton. It's about legacy, family. When I'm gone, I want my assets going to people who understand the importance of carrying on our traditions. I'm your sister. My voice cracked. How does my marital status change that? Look around you. Laura gestured to the family photos lining her walls. Wilfred and I have built something here. What have you built besides other people's houses? The familiar ache of never quite measuring up burned in my chest. I've built a career, a life. Just because it doesn't fit your cookie-cutter version of success. Don't start. Laura cut me off. Mom agrees with me. You're 34, Peyton. No husband, no kids, not even a serious relationship since that disaster with Marcus 3 years ago. I stood up so quickly my chair scraped against the tile. Leave Marcus out of this. And Mom? Of course she agrees with you. She's been planning our wedding since we were in diapers. She just wants what's best for us, Laura said, her voice softening in that patronizing way that made me want to scream. Remember what Grandma Isabel always said about family being everything? That's when it hit me. Grandma Isabel's last words, whispered to me alone in that hospital room 6 months ago. The truth about our family, in my blue box, would change everything. I'd forgotten about it until now, dismissed it as the ramblings of a woman on morphine. But Grandma had been lucid that day, her eyes sharp as she'd gripped my hand. You know what? I said, gathering my purse. Grandma Isabel also taught me that family isn't just about who you marry. It's about who you love. Laura rolled her eyes. Don't dramatize this. It's a practical decision. Practical? I laughed, but it came out hollow. Was it practical when I stayed up 3 nights straight redesigning your kitchen for free? When I helped Wilfred plan your surprise anniversary party? When I... Peyton. Wilfred's voice came from the doorway, making us both jump. He stood there awkwardly, briefcase in hand. I didn't know you were coming over. I was just leaving, I said, brushing past him. Apparently I'm not family enough to stick around. Laura, I heard him say behind me. What did you do? I was halfway to my car when Laura called after me. You're being childish. This is exactly why... I spun around. Why what? Why I don't deserve to be acknowledged as your sister? You know what's childish? Thinking that a piece of paper and a white dress somehow make you more worthy of family? That's not what this is about. Then what is it about? I demanded, keys cutting into my palm as I clenched them. Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you're punishing me for living my life differently than yours. Laura's face flushed. I'm protecting our family's values. Values? I scoffed. Like what Grandma Isabel valued. Something flickered across Laura's face. Uncertainty. Maybe fear. What's that supposed to mean? I thought about the blue box, about Grandma's secret, and suddenly I knew exactly what I needed to do. Nothing, I said, getting into my car. Nothing at all. Yet. As I drove away, I called Cousin Rosie. She answered on the second ring. Remember when you said you'd help me go through Grandma's things? I asked, turning onto the highway. I need that help now. Finally, Rosie exclaimed. I've been waiting for you to ask. When? I checked my rearview mirror, half expecting to see Laura following me. Tonight, there's something specific we need to find. A blue box. Does this have anything to do with Laura? Mom mentioned she was making changes to her will. Let's just say, I replied, a plan already forming in my mind. That Grandma Isabel might have left us the key to changing everything. As I headed home, I couldn't shake the memory of Grandma's knowing smile that last day, or the way she'd squeezed my hand 3 times, our secret code for I love you since I was little. She'd known this day would come, known I'd need her help one last time. Well, Laura wanted to talk about family legacy. I was about to show her exactly what that meant. As we take a brief pause, we'd love to know where you're watching from today. Drop your location in the comments below. Now, back to our story. That's the 3rd box of letters we've gone through. Rosie sighed, brushing dust from her jeans. Still no sign of anything blue. We sat cross-legged in my grandmother's attic, surrounded by decades of family history. The space smelled of cedar and old paper, and the setting sun cast long shadows through the single window. It has to be here somewhere, I said, pulling another box closer. Grandma Isabel wouldn't have mentioned it if... I stopped mid-sentence, lifting out a yellowed envelope. What is it? Rosie scooted closer. Look at the date. I turned the envelope over. 1952. And it's addressed to my dearest Isabella, not Isabel. Rosie frowned. I thought Grandma always went by Isabel. She did. I carefully opened the envelope, its seal long since weakened by time. Inside was a photograph that made my breath catch. Rosie, look at this. The black and white image showed a younger version of my grandmother, but she wasn't alone. A striking woman stood beside her, their hands clasped tightly together. They were both laughing at something off camera, looking more carefree than I'd ever seen in our family albums. Who's that with her? Rosie asked, taking the photo for a closer look. No idea, but check out what's written on the back. Rosie flipped it over. Isabella and Maria, Florence. That's all it says. I've never heard of any Maria, I said, digging deeper into the box. And why Florence? Our family didn't move to Italy until… Peyton? A voice called from downstairs. Are you up there? I froze. Mom? Footsteps creaked on the stairs, and moments later, my mother's face appeared through the attic hatch. What are you two doing here? Laura called me. She's worried sick about… She stopped, eyes fixing on the photograph in Rosie's hands. Mom? I watched her face pale. Do you know who Maria is? She climbed the rest of the way up, moving with unusual hesitation. Where did you find that? In this box of letters. Mom, what's going on? She sat down heavily on an old trunk. I never thought… Your grandmother made me promise never to tell anyone. Tell anyone what? Rosie and I asked in unison. Mom reached for the photo, hands trembling slightly. Maria was… She was your grandmother's first love, before she met your grandfather. The attic fell silent except for the distant sound of traffic outside. First love? I repeated. You mean, they met in Florence when your grandmother was studying art. It was a different time, you understand. These things weren't… accepted. Holy shit, Rosie whispered. I thought about all the times Grandma Isabel had defended me when Laura or Mom criticized my lifestyle choices, the knowing looks she'd give me during family dinners when marriage came up. Did Grandpa know? Mom nodded slowly. He knew. He loved your grandmother enough to give her away to be part of both worlds. They had an understanding. Does Laura know any of this? No one knows except me, and now you two. Mom looked at me sharply. Whatever you're thinking, Peyton. I'm thinking about family. I cut in. About how Grandma lived with this secret her whole life because of traditional values. The same values Laura's using to push me away. That's different. Mom protested, but her voice lacked conviction. Is it? I stood up, renewed purpose flooding through me. Where's the blue box, Mom? The one Grandma mentioned before she died? She blinked. How do you know about that? She told me to find it. Said it would change everything. Mom was quiet for a long moment, then… It's not here. It's in Tuscany, in the old family villa. She left it there last summer before… She didn't finish the sentence. Then that's where I'm going. I pulled out my phone, already searching for flights. Peyton, wait. Mom grabbed my arm. There are things in that box. Letters, documents, things that could hurt people. Or heal them, I countered. Don't you think it's time our family stopped hiding who we really are? Rosie stood up. I'm coming with you. You can't just fly off to Italy, Mom protested. Watch me. I showed her my phone screen. There's a flight tomorrow night. Perfect timing, too. Laura's planning that big family gathering at the villa next month, isn't she? Peyton. Mom's voice held a warning note. Don't use this to get back at your sister. This isn't about revenge, Mom. It's about truth. About showing Laura that family is more than her narrow definition of it. I tucked the photograph into my pocket. Grandma understood that. Maybe it's time everyone else did too. Mom looked between us, then sighed deeply. The key, she said finally. You'll need the key to open it. I'll get it for you. As she disappeared down the attic stairs, Rosie turned to me. You know this could blow up in our faces, right? I thought about Laura's dismissive words, about Grandma's secret love, about all the ways our family had twisted itself to fit into acceptable shapes. Maybe it needs to blow up, I said. Maybe that's the only way to build something real. Back in my studio, I spread the old photograph across my drafting table, studying every detail under the bright work lights. My fingers traced the outline of Grandma Isabella and Maria, their joy radiating through time. This is it, I muttered, grabbing my sketchbook. The idea had been forming since we left the attic, and now it poured onto the page in swift, sure strokes. My phone buzzed. Laura's name flashed on the screen. Ignore. Another buzz. Rosie this time. I answered immediately. You need to check your email, she said without preamble. Someone sent us something interesting. I pulled up my laptop, clicking on the new message from an anonymous address. The subject line read, "About Isabella and Maria." Holy shit, I breathed, scanning the contents. Are you seeing this? The part about them living together in Florence for 3 years? Or the part about the secret art gallery they ran? My hands shook as I clicked through the attached photos. More images of Grandma and Maria, newspaper clippings about their gallery, letters I couldn't quite read in Italian. Who sent this? I wondered aloud. No idea, but there's more. They're saying Maria's family still owns property in Florence, just blocks from our family villa. I grabbed a fresh sheet of paper, sketching faster now. Rosie, I know exactly what we're going to do. Why do I feel nervous when you say that? Because you know me too well. I stepped back, examining my rough design. I'm going to create a mural for the villa, right in the main hall where Laura's planning her precious family gathering. A mural of what? Our real family history, not the sanitized version we've been fed. I started adding details to the sketch. I'll use architectural elements to tell the story. The Florence Gallery's facade, the villa's original structure, all of it woven together with their story. Laura will lose her mind. Maybe. Or maybe she'll finally understand what family really means. My pencil moved faster. I'm thinking 3 panels, floor to ceiling. The first showing Grandma's early life in Florence, the second depicting her time with Maria, and the third... The third? The third showing our family as it really is. All of us. No masks, no pretense. Rosie was quiet for a moment. You know this is either brilliant or completely insane, right? Sometimes they're the same thing. I added final touches to the sketch. Can you translate these letters? My Italian's not good enough. Already on it. But Peyton? What if this anonymous person is trying to cause trouble? My phone buzzed again. Another email. This time with a single line. Check the basement of the gallery at Via Romano 24. Bring the key. They're trying to help us, I said firmly. They must have known Grandma or Maria, or they're catfishing us into some weird Italian scam. I laughed despite myself. That's oddly specific paranoia. A knock at my studio door made me jump. I opened it to find my mother standing there looking uncomfortable. Mom? She held out a small, ornate key. I thought about what you said. About truth. Her hand trembled slightly. Your grandmother. She was the strongest person I knew, but she was also the loneliest sometimes. I took the key, feeling its weight. Why didn't you ever tell us? Because I thought I was protecting you. All of you. She glanced at my drafting table, eyes widening at the sketches. What are you planning? Something Grandma would have wanted. I showed her the design. A way to tell her story. Our story. Mom traced the lines with her finger. She always said you got her artistic eye. She paused. Laura called me again. She's worried you're going to do something rash. Like tell the truth. Like hurt the family. The family's already hurt, Mom. We just pretend it isn't. I gestured to the anonymous email. Look at this. Someone out there knows our history better than we do. Doesn't that bother you? She read the email, her face paling. Via Romano 24? That was their gallery. Maria's family sold it years ago, but... But what? But your grandmother kept paying the rent. Every year until she died. Mom looked up at me. I never knew why. My phone buzzed one more time. Another anonymous message. Time is running out. The truth won't wait forever. I'm flying out tomorrow, I told Mom, with or without anyone's blessing. She studied my face for a long moment, then nodded slowly. Your grandmother would be proud of you, you know. She always said you were the one who saw things clearly. I hugged her, breathing in her familiar perfume. Will you help me? With the mural? She stepped back, wiping her eyes. I'll do better than that. I'll tell you everything I know about Isabella and Maria, starting with why they really opened that gallery. I grabbed my sketchbook, ready to capture every detail. As Mom began to speak, I could almost hear Grandma's voice in my head. The truth about our family would change everything. She was right, and I was about to prove it. The gallery wasn't just a gallery, Mom said, pacing my studio. It was their cover story. I looked up from my sketchbook. Cover story for what? For helping people escape. She sat down heavily on my work stool. In the 1950s, Italy wasn't kind to anyone who was different. Your grandmother and Maria used the gallery's basement to hide people, help them find safe passage to other countries. My pencil stopped moving. They were running an underground railroad? Of sorts. They called it the Rainbow Path. The art sales funded everything. Travel documents, bribes, whatever it took. A sharp knock interrupted us. Laura burst in before I could answer. What are you doing? She demanded, waving her phone. Why are people sending me strange emails about Grandma? Mom stood up quickly. Laura, calm down. Calm down? Someone's spreading lies about our grandmother. She turned to me. This is your doing, isn't it? Some twisted revenge because I hurt your feelings? I met her glare. They're not lies, Laura. Mom was just telling me. Mom? Laura spun around. You're involved in this? Sit down, Mom said firmly. Both of you. It's time you heard the whole story. Laura remained standing. I don't want to hear any stories. I want this stopped. Like you stopped considering me family? I shot back. That's different. Is it? I grabbed the original photograph. Look at this. Really look at it. Laura snatched the photo, then froze. This can't be real. It's real, Mom said softly. That's your grandmother with Maria. They ran an art gallery together in Florence, and they helped people escape persecution. No? Laura shook her head. Grandma was married to Grandpa. She was normal. Normal? I stood up so fast my chair toppled. Define normal, Laura. Because from what Mom's telling us, Grandma was a hero who saved lives while hiding who she really was. She married Grandpa to protect herself and Maria, to keep their work going. You're making this up, Laura whispered, but her voice wavered. The blue box? Mom said suddenly. In the villa's basement. It has everything. Letters, documents, lists of people they helped. Your grandmother wanted you both to know eventually. She just ran out of time. Laura sank into my chair. Why didn't she tell us? Because of people like you, I said, then immediately regretted my tone. Because she was afraid of being judged, of being cut off from her family. Sound familiar? Tears welled in Laura's eyes. That's not fair. None of this is fair. I softened my voice. But it's true. And I'm going to tell her story, Laura. All of it. The mural, Mom explained. Peyton's designing it for the villa. You can't, Laura protested. The family gathering is exactly when it needs to happen. I showed her my sketches. Look at this design. It's not just about Grandma and Maria. It's about all of us. Every secret, every struggle, every triumph. Our real family legacy. Laura studied the drawings, her hands trembling slightly. Dad will never allow it. Wilfred knows more than you think, Mom said quietly. He and your grandmother were close. Why do you think he always defended Peyton? Laura's head snapped up. What? He understood, I realized aloud. He knew about Grandma? Mom nodded. They used to talk for hours, about acceptance, about love, about what family really means. Laura stood abruptly. I need air. Laura, wait. Mom called, but she was already gone. I moved to follow, but Mom caught my arm. Give her time. This is a lot to process. We don't have time, I said, showing her the latest anonymous email. Whoever's helping us says there's more evidence in the gallery basement, but we need to hurry. Something about the building being sold. Mom reached into her purse and pulled out an envelope. Then you'll need this. Inside was a plane ticket to Florence. Mom, I bought it this afternoon. Your flight leaves tomorrow morning. She handed me another ticket. This one's for Rosie. I already called her mother. What about Laura? Let me handle Laura. Mom touched my cheek. Just promise me something? What? When you find what's in that basement, be gentle with how you share it. The truth can heal, but it can also hurt if wielded like a weapon. I thought about Laura's tears, about Grandma's lifetime of secrets, about the people she and Maria had helped. I promise, I said. But Mom, why did Grandma keep paying the rent on that gallery all these years? Mom smiled sadly. That's one mystery I never solved. But knowing your grandmother, there's a reason. There was always a reason. I picked up the old photograph again, studying the way Grandma and Maria looked at each other. Whatever I found in that basement, whatever secrets were still hidden, one thing was clear. Our family's story was far from over, and I was about to uncover its most important chapter. This can't be the right place, Rosie said, staring at the crumbling facade of Via Romano 24. The once grand gallery entrance was now hidden behind graffiti-covered plywood. Florence buzzed around us, tourists and locals weaving through the narrow streets, oblivious to our mission. The summer heat pressed down like a heavy blanket. The address matches, I said, pulling out Grandma's key. Help me find a way in. We circled the building, finding a side door partially hidden by overgrown ivy. The key slid in perfectly. I can't believe we're breaking and entering in broad daylight, Rosie whispered as we slipped inside. It's not breaking and entering if you have a key. Pretty sure that's not how Italian law works. Our phone flashlights revealed a space frozen in time. Dust-covered frames leaned against walls. Empty pedestals stood like ghosts in the gloom. The basement, I said, spotting a door behind an old desk. That's where the email said to look. The stairs creaked ominously as we descended. The basement was larger than expected, with several rooms branching off a main area. Over here, Rosie called from one corner. There's something carved in the wall. I joined her, running my fingers over the faint markings. It's a rainbow. The rainbow path, Rosie breathed. Your mom was right. A metallic glint caught my eye. Behind a loose brick, something blue peeked out. The box, I said, carefully extracting it. Grandma's blue box. My hands shook as I inserted the key. Inside, dozens of letters spilled out, along with photographs, documents, and a small leather-bound journal. Peyton? Rosie said, reading one of the letters. These aren't just from the 50s. The newest one is dated last year. What? She handed me the letter. The handwriting was shaky but familiar. My dearest Isabella, I read aloud. Another year has passed and still I keep our secret. The gallery remains safe, though I fear its days are numbered. The developers grow more insistent. Perhaps it's time to tell them, your granddaughters. They deserve to know how many lives we saved, how many families we kept together. Especially Peyton. She reminds me so much of you. With eternal love, Maria. Maria's still alive? Rosie gasped. Before I could respond, a voice spoke from the shadows. See, she is. We spun around. An elderly woman stood at the foot of the stairs, leaning on a cane. I've been waiting for you, she said in accented English. Though I must admit, I expected you sooner. You're Maria, I whispered. She nodded, moving closer. And you are Isabella's granddaughter, the architect, the one who sees truth. You sent the emails? My grandson did. I can barely work a telephone. She smiled, and suddenly I could see the woman from the photograph. But the messages were from me. Why now? I asked. Why tell us after all this time? Maria lowered herself onto an old chair. Because this building will be demolished next month. Our sanctuary, our history, it cannot disappear without witness. The people you helped? Rosie said. What happened to them? Many thrived. Started families, built lives. Maria gestured to the walls. Their stories are here in these bricks. Every rainbow mark represents a soul saved. I counted at least 30 marks. And Grandma? Did she... I struggled to find the words. Did she love your grandfather? Yes, in her way. He was a good man who understood love comes in many forms. Maria's eyes grew distant. But Isabella and I, we had a different love, one that changed lives. Including mine, a new voice said. We all turned. Laura stood on the stairs, looking shell-shocked. How did you... I started. Mom told me where you'd be. She descended slowly. I followed you from the airport. Maria studied her. Ah, the traditional one. Isabella worried about you most. Laura flinched. She did? She feared you would let rules become more important than love. Maria held out her hand. Come, let me show you something. She led us to a small room off the main basement. Inside, hundreds of photographs covered the walls. Wedding pictures, baby announcements, graduation ceremonies. Every person we saved, Maria explained. Every family that flourished because we dared to love differently. Laura touched one of the photos. These people found happiness by being true to themselves. I finished softly. Just like Grandma wanted for all of us. Tears rolled down Laura's cheeks. I've been so wrong. About everything. Maria took both our hands. Isabella kept this place. Paid the rent all these years because she believed someday her family would need to understand. That love, all love, deserves to be remembered. I looked at my sister, seeing real understanding in her eyes for the first time. Help me tell their story, I said. Help me make the mural something Grandma would be proud of. Laura squeezed my hand. Yes, she whispered. It's time our family knew the truth. A little higher on the left, I called out, directing the workers positioning the first panel of my mural. The villa's main hall echoed with activity as we raced to complete the installation before the family gathering. Laura appeared beside me, carrying 2 cups of espresso. The colors are perfect. They match the original gallery's facade exactly. Maria helped with that. I accepted the coffee gratefully. She remembered every detail. 3 weeks had passed since our discovery in the basement. We'd spent every day since then working on the mural, with Maria sharing stories that brought each panel to life. Speaking of Maria, Laura said, have you told her about tomorrow night? Not yet. I'm worried it might be too much for her. She's stronger than you think. Laura smiled. Like someone else I know. The sound of breaking glass made us both jump. One of the workers had dropped a frame, sending shards skittering across the marble floor. Careful! I rushed over. Those photographs are irreplaceable. Sorry, Senora. He apologized, helping me gather the scattered images, copies from Maria's wall of saved families. Everything okay? Wilfred's voice boomed from the doorway. He crossed the hall, taking in the nearly completed mural. This is incredible, Peyton. You knew, didn't you? Laura asked her husband. About Grandma and Maria? He nodded. Isabel told me years ago. Said she saw something in me that reminded her of her Giovanni. Someone who understood love doesn't always follow rules. Why didn't you tell me? Wasn't my story to tell, honey. He wrapped an arm around her shoulders. Besides, you needed to learn this lesson your own way. My phone buzzed. A message from Rosie. Maria's granddaughter just called. We might have a problem. What now? I muttered, stepping away to call her back. Maria's not feeling well, Rosie explained. She's thinking about skipping tomorrow night. No, she can't. The whole point is to bring everyone together, to show the family. I know, but she's nervous. Says it might be too much drama for an old lady. I glanced at the mural, at the panel showing Maria and Grandma in their gallery, young and fearless. Text me her address. I'm going over there. Now? But the installation? Laura can handle it. I hung up and turned to my sister. Can you finish directing the workers? There's something I need to do. She must have seen the determination in my face because she just nodded. Go. I've got this. 30 minutes later, I stood outside Maria's apartment in central Florence, catching my breath after climbing 4 flights of stairs. Before I could knock, the door opened. I wondered how long it would take you to come, Maria said, eyes twinkling. Come in, stubborn one. Her apartment was small but elegant, filled with art and memories. She led me to a balcony overlooking the city. Beautiful, isn't it? She said, pouring 2 glasses of wine. Isabella and I used to sit here and dream of a world where we could love openly. That world exists now, I said, thanks partly to what you both did. Perhaps. She sipped her wine. But some things never change. Family judgment, societal pressure, which is exactly why you need to come tomorrow night. I pulled out my phone, showing her photos of the mural. Look what we've created. Your story, Grandma's story, the stories of everyone you helped. It's all there. And you think this will change minds? I think it already has. Laura's different now. She's trying to understand, to make amends. Maria studied me over her glass. You remind me so much of Isabella at your age. So certain you can fix everything. Maybe I can't fix everything, but I can honor what you built. I took her hand. Please come. Let the family see you're not just some secret from the past. You're part of our story. She was quiet for a long moment, looking out over Florence's rooftops. You know what your grandmother's favorite saying was? What? Courage isn't about being fearless. It's about being scared and doing it anyway. She squeezed my hand. Very well. I will come. Really? On one condition. Her eyes sparkled with mischief. I get to bring the wine. That family of yours sounds like they could use a good Tuscan red. I hugged her, breathing in her familiar perfume, the same one I'd noticed in some of Grandma's old scarves. My phone buzzed again. Laura had sent a photo of the completed mural installation with a message. Mom's crying. The good kind of crying. Get back here. Come on, I said to Maria. Let's go see it together. The workers are almost done, and I want you to make sure we got every detail right. As we descended the stairs, Maria hummed an old Italian song. You know, she said, Isabella always said the truth would set us free. I think she'd be proud to see it finally happening. Tomorrow night, I promised. Everyone will know exactly how proud they should be. But as we stepped into the warm Tuscan evening, I couldn't shake the feeling that we were still missing something crucial. Some final piece of the puzzle that would make everything clear. The villa's main hall buzzed with conversation as family members gathered from across Italy and America. Aunts, uncles, cousins, some I hadn't seen in years, all mingling beneath the covered mural. When can we see it? My young cousin Sophia tugged at my sleeve. Mom says it's about great-grandma Isabel. Soon, I promised, checking my phone again. No messages from Maria. Laura appeared at my elbow. She'll be here. Stop worrying. Easy for you to say. You're not about to blow up decades of family history. No, we're about to restore it. She handed me a glass of wine. Mom's keeping the older generation distracted with photo albums. Perfect timing for... The room fell silent as Maria entered, leaning on her grandson's arm. She wore an elegant blue dress that somehow made her look both fragile and formidable. Aunt Teresa dropped her wine glass. Madonna Santa. Is that... Impossible, Uncle Robert whispered. She looks just like... Mom stepped forward, taking Maria's hands. Welcome home, she said simply. Maria smiled. It's been too long, little Sadie. The tension broke as dozens of questions erupted at once. I caught Laura's eye and nodded. She clinked her glass for attention. Everyone, she called out. If you'll gather round, my sister has something to share. I moved to the center of the room, heart pounding. Many of you knew our grandmother Isabel as a traditional Italian wife and mother, but there was so much more to her story. Our family's story. I gestured to the covered mural. Tonight, we honor the truth. At my signal, Rosie and Wilfred pulled the sheets away. Gasps echoed through the hall as the 3 panels were revealed. The first showed young Isabella and Maria in their gallery, surrounded by hidden doorways and rainbow symbols. The second depicted the families they'd saved, their faces emerging from darkness into light. The third showed our family as it truly was. Every generation, every love story, every triumph and struggle. Dio mio, Aunt Teresa breathed. The gallery. I remember Papa talking about it. Your father was one of our helpers, Maria said, moving closer to the mural. He kept our secret, helped us forge documents. Uncle Robert stepped forward. But you and Isabel, were you in love? Maria's voice was clear and strong. Yes, and your brother Giovanni loved us both enough to help us continue our work. The people we helped, I added, were like us. Different. Afraid. Looking for acceptance. I touched the second panel. Every face here represents a family that flourished because 2 women were brave enough to create a safe haven. But why keep it secret so long? Someone asked. Because some truths need time to be heard, Laura said, surprising me. Sometimes we're not ready to see what's right in front of us. She looked at me. Sometimes we hurt the people we love because we're afraid of what's different. Silence fell as everyone absorbed the images, the stories, the truth finally unveiled. Then Sophia spoke up. Is that why you changed your will, Aunt Laura? All eyes turned to my sister. She flushed but stood straighter. Yes, I was wrong to judge what makes a family. Grandma Isabel and Maria showed us that love, all love, creates family. Maria moved to stand beside me, touching the mural gently. Isabella wanted you all to know eventually, but she worried it would tear the family apart. Instead, Mom said, it's bringing us together. Suddenly, Maria's grandson rushed forward. Nonna, your medicine. Maria wavered and I caught her arm. Are you okay? She smiled weakly. Just tired, dear, but there's one more thing. She pulled an envelope from her purse. Isabella left this with me. Said to open it when the truth finally came out. My hands trembled as I took it. Inside was a deed and a letter. The gallery, I read aloud. She left the gallery to all of us? Read the letter, Maria urged. My dear family, I began. If you're reading this, it means you finally know our story. The gallery was never just a business. It was a sanctuary. Now it's yours. Make it a place where truth can live in the light, where love in all its forms can flourish. The rainbow path never truly ended. It just changed direction. With eternal love, Isabella. Tears flowed freely now, not just mine, but across generations of our family. Even Uncle Robert, who'd never cried in his life, wiped his eyes. So, Laura said, her voice thick with emotion, who's ready to save a historic building from developers? Laughter mixed with tears as family members began sharing ideas, memories, hopes for the future. Maria squeezed my hand. You did it, Kara. You brought the truth into the light. We did it, I corrected, watching my family come together in a way I'd never seen before. All of us. But as I looked at Maria's tired smile, I realized this wasn't quite the end. There was still one more truth waiting to be told. We need to talk, I said to Laura as the family celebration wound down. The villa's garden was quiet except for crickets and distant laughter from inside. About Maria? She settled onto a stone bench. I noticed too. She's not well, is she? I shook my head. Her grandson told me it's heart failure. She's been holding on for this, to see the truth come out, like Grandma did. Laura's voice cracked. That's why she told you about the blue box when she did. Exactly. And now, I pulled out my phone, showing Laura the gallery blueprints I'd been working on. I have an idea, but I need your help. She studied the plans. A community center? More than that. Look at the design. It honors the original gallery's architecture, but adds modern elements. Meeting spaces, counseling rooms, art studios. A place where people can still find acceptance, still get help. The Rainbow Path reimagined, Laura mused. But this would take serious money. That's where you come in. I took a deep breath. You're the financial wizard of the family. Help me make this work? Before she could answer, Mom appeared in the garden doorway. Girls, Maria's asking for you both. We found Maria in the library looking frail but peaceful in an armchair. Family photos spread across her lap. Ah, my architects of truth. She smiled. Sit with me. There's something you should see. She handed me a photograph I hadn't noticed before. It showed Grandma Isabel holding a baby with Maria beside her. That's Mom. Laura gasped. Maria nodded. Isabella and I, we didn't just save other families. We created our own. Sadie, your mother, was our daughter. What? I stared at Mom, who was crying softly by the doorway. But how? Giovanni agreed to be listed as her father, Maria explained. It was the only way back then, but Isabella and I raised her together in our own way. Why didn't you tell us? Laura asked Mom. I didn't know myself until I was older, Mom said, joining us. And by then, the habit of secrecy was so ingrained. But now, Maria said firmly, no more secrets. No more hiding. That's why I need you both to promise me something. Anything, we said in unison. The gallery, make it live again. Not just as a memorial, but as a beacon. Show people that family is something you build, not something you're bound by. I showed her my designs. Already working on it. Her eyes lit up. Perfect. Isabella would love this. She touched the plans with trembling fingers. And the top floor? Living spaces, Laura said suddenly. For people who need temporary shelter while they figure things out. Like a modern rainbow path. Maria beamed. You see? You two together, this is what we fought for. The freedom to be who you are and still be family. I'll handle the funding, Laura declared, between the family investments and some strategic partnerships. And I'll oversee the renovation, I added. We can preserve the historical elements while making it functional for today's needs. Good girls, Maria whispered, her eyes growing heavy. Isabella was right about you both. Mom stepped forward. You should rest, Maria. We can continue tomorrow. As we helped her to her room, Maria grabbed my hand. Remember what Isabella always said about truth? That it would set us free? No, she smiled. That it was like architecture. You need both strong foundations and room to grow? Later that night, Laura found me in the hall, staring at the mural. I've been thinking, she said. The gallery project. It needs a director, someone who understands both the history and the vision. You offering? Actually, I was thinking of Rosie. She's perfect for it, and... She hesitated. I'm making some changes of my own. Oh, Wilfred and I are moving to Florence. The family business could use a European branch, and... She touched the mural. I want to be part of this. Really part of it. I hugged her tight, remembering all the years of judgment and distance between us. Welcome home, sis. Also, she pulled back, grinning. You might want to check your email. I had my lawyer draw up new papers this morning. I checked my phone. There it was. Laura's updated will with a simple addition. To my sister Peyton, who taught me that family is built on love, not convention. Laura, don't cry, she warned, even as she wiped her own eyes. We have work to do. A legacy to build. Looking at the mural, at Grandma and Maria's love story, at the lives they saved, at our family's true history, I felt something settle into place. The revenge I'd sought had transformed into something better. Redemption, restoration, rebirth. You know what this means? I said to Laura. We're going to need a bigger mural. She laughed. Good thing I know an architect who specializes in telling the truth through art. Above us, Grandma Isabel and Maria smiled from the mural, their love finally free to light the way forward.
The day I caught my fiancé cheating started like any other perfect morning. The sun streamed through our bedroom windows, Frederick's arm draped lazily across my waist, and my engagement ring sparkled mockingly on my finger. I had no idea that in less than an hour I'd discover the truth that would change everything. I'm Reagan, and until that morning, I thought I was living a charmed life. At 34, I had a successful career in corporate finance, a gorgeous home in Boston's Back Bay, and was engaged to what I believed was the perfect man. Frederick was everything I'd dreamed of, successful, charming, and supposedly devoted to me. "Morning, beautiful," Frederick mumbled, kissing my shoulder before rolling out of bed. "Early meeting today? Don't forget we have dinner with your sister tonight." I watched him head to the shower, admiring how put together he always looked, even first thing in the morning. That's when I noticed his phone lighting up on the nightstand. A text notification caught my eye. "Can't wait to see you later. Missing you already." The message wasn't from me. My stomach lurched, but years of handling high-stakes negotiations kept my voice steady. "Hey, babe," I called out. "Want me to grab your phone? Looks like you got a message." "No." The shower stopped abruptly. No need. Probably just work. That's when I knew. After he left, I did something I'd never done before. I logged into our joint account. Frederick had insisted on combining finances after the engagement, calling it a sign of trust. I scrolled through the transactions, my hands shaking. Expensive restaurant charges for dates I'd never been on, hotel bookings on nights he'd claimed to be working late, and there it was, a receipt for a jewelry store downtown from just last week. "Rachel, I need you to meet me for coffee, now." I called my best friend, my voice cracking. 20 minutes later, I sat across from Rachel at our favorite cafe, sliding my phone across the table. "Look at these charges." Rachel's eyes widened as she scrolled. "Reagan, honey, that's not even the worst part," I said, taking a sip of my rapidly cooling latte. "I think I know who it is." "Who?" "Kayla, my sister." Rachel nearly choked on her coffee. "Your sister? How do you know?" "The restaurants. They're all near her apartment. The jewelry store receipt? It's where she works. And that text this morning?" I pulled out my phone and showed her a photo I'd taken of Frederick's screen. "That's how she always texts. The same way she's done since high school." "That little snake," Rachel hissed. "What are you gonna do? Cancel the wedding?" I stared out the window, watching people rush by, living their normal lives while mine crumbled around me. Then something shifted inside me. "No," I said slowly. "I'm not canceling anything." Rachel leaned forward. "What do you mean?" "They think they're so clever sneaking around behind my back, but they've forgotten something crucial." I smiled, though it didn't reach my eyes. "I'm better at playing the long game than both of them combined." "Reagan?" Rachel's voice held a note of warning. "What are you planning?" "The wedding's in 6 weeks. That's plenty of time to make sure they both get exactly what they deserve." I pulled out my notebook and started writing. "First, I need a private investigator. Then I need to make some careful adjustments to our prenup." "You're scaring me a little," Rachel admitted, "but I'm also impressed." My phone buzzed. A text from Kayla. "Can't wait for dinner tonight. Love you, sis." I showed it to Rachel, who shook her head in disgust. "Oh, I'll give them dinner," I said, already drafting a mental script for the evening ahead. "And then I'll give them the performance of a lifetime. They want to play games? Let's play." I looked at my engagement ring again, but this time I saw it differently. It wasn't a symbol of love anymore. It was a key to my revenge, and I was going to make it count. "You know what the best part is?" I told Rachel as we gathered our things to leave. "They think I'm the predictable one, the responsible sister, the woman who always follows the rules." I laughed softly. "They have no idea what I'm capable of." Rachel squeezed my hand. "Just be careful, okay? Revenge can be dangerous." "Don't worry," I assured her. my mind already racing with plans. I'm not gonna do anything rash. This needs to be perfect, and when I'm done, they'll wish they'd never betrayed me. As I walked out of the cafe, my phone buzzed again. Frederick this time. Looking forward to dinner with my two favorite women. I smiled as I typed my reply. Me too, honey, me too. Dinner that night was an exercise in self-control. I watched my sister Kayla pick at her salad, her perfectly manicured nails drumming against her water glass every time Frederick spoke. She'd always been the prettier sister, something she never let me forget. But tonight I noticed how her beauty had a desperate edge to it. So, Reagan, Kayla chirped, have you picked out your wedding dress yet? Time's running out. I took a deliberate sip of wine. Actually, I have an appointment this weekend. You're still coming, right? Of course. She reached across the table to squeeze my hand. I wouldn't miss it for anything. Frederick shifted in his seat, his tie suddenly too tight. I'd seen that tell before, usually when he was lying to clients. You should come too, Frederick, I suggested sweetly. Break tradition a little. Oh, I don't think, he started. He can't, Kayla interrupted, too quickly. I mean, it's bad luck, right? I smiled. Right, bad luck. After dinner, Frederick excused himself to take a call. The moment he stepped away, Kayla leaned forward. Are you okay? You seem different tonight. Different how? I don't know, distant maybe. She twisted her napkin. Getting cold feet? Actually, I've never been more certain about anything in my life, I replied, maintaining eye contact until she looked away first. The next morning, I met with Samson, the private investigator Rachel had recommended. His office was small but meticulously organized, just like his mind, I'd soon learn. Your suspicions were correct, he said, sliding a folder across his desk. They've been meeting for at least 6 months. I have photos, hotel records, and, he paused, recordings of some conversations you might want to hear. I opened the folder, my hands steady. Tell me everything. They're not as careful as they think they are. Your fiancé has been transferring money to an account in your sister's name. Small amounts, but they add up. How much? Just over $50,000 so far. I thought about the joint account Frederick had insisted on. My money, my sister. There's more, Samson continued. They've been looking at apartments together, in Chicago. I laughed, the sound sharp in the quiet office. Chicago, where I've been trying to get Frederick to relocate for my job for the past year? The lease application is in both their names. Move-in date is set for 2 weeks after your wedding date. Perfect, I whispered. That's perfect. Later that day, I met Rachel for lunch. Her eyes widened as I laid out what I'd learned. Holy shit, Reagan, they were planning to run away together? Apparently, I stabbed at my salad. But here's the interesting part. Frederick doesn't know about the trust fund. The one from your grandmother? I nodded. The one that only activates when I get married. The one that would make me sole controller of not just my inheritance, but the family business interests too. I smiled. The one Kayla's been bitter about since we were teenagers. Does Frederick know how much it's worth? He knows it's substantial, but he doesn't know the details. I leaned back. And Kayla doesn't know that I know about her little Chicago plans. Rachel shook her head. You're terrifying when you're strategic. You know that? I learned from the best. Corporate mergers and acquisitions. Always know more than your opponent thinks you know. My phone buzzed. A text from my mother. Darling, don't forget the cake tasting tomorrow. Kayla's coming too. Perfect timing, I told Rachel. Watch this. I called my mother, putting her on speaker. Mom, about tomorrow. I was thinking we should invite Frederick's mother too. Make it a real family affair. Oh, that's a wonderful idea, Mom gushed. I'll call her right now. Within minutes, my phone lit up with a text from Kayla. Why did you invite his mom? It'll be so awkward. Because that's what families do, I typed back. Unless there's some reason you don't want her there? 3 dots appeared and disappeared several times before she finally responded. No reason. See you tomorrow. Rachel raised an eyebrow. You're enjoying this, aren't you? You know what they say about revenge being a dish best served cold? I showed her my phone. I prefer to think of it as a wedding cake best served with a side of justice. Just promise me one thing, Rachel said, reaching for my hand. Promise me you know what you're doing. I thought about the prenup in my desk drawer, the trust fund paperwork waiting to be filed, and the evidence Samson had gathered. Oh, I know exactly what I'm doing, and by the time I'm done, so will everyone else. My phone buzzed again. Frederick, can't wait to taste our future together tomorrow. I typed back, neither can I, honey, neither can I. The cake tasting turned out to be even better than I'd planned. Frederick's mother, Patricia, was a former divorce attorney with a razor-sharp eye for detail, and she didn't miss a thing. Kayla, dear, Patricia said, watching my sister sample a slice of lemon cake. You look a bit peaked. Are you feeling all right? Kayla's fork clattered against the plate. Just tired. Work's been crazy. Patricia turned to me. Reagan, have you given any thought to the prenuptial agreement I sent over? Frederick nearly choked on his champagne. Mother, we agreed. Actually, I cut in smoothly, I've reviewed it with my lawyers. They suggested a few additions. My mother frowned. Additions? But darling, isn't that a bit? It's fine, Frederick interrupted, his voice tight. Whatever Reagan wants. I watched Kayla's knuckles turn white around her fork. She'd always been terrible at hiding her emotions. Speaking of agreements, I said, I've been thinking about moving the trust fund activation date up, before the wedding. The reaction was immediate. Kayla's head snapped up, and Frederick's expression shifted from concern to poorly concealed interest. But why? My mother asked. Your grandmother's wishes were very specific. Just thinking ahead, I replied, catching Patricia's knowing look. Planning for our future, right, Frederick? Right, he mumbled, suddenly very interested in his cake sample. After the tasting, I deliberately left my phone on the table when I excused myself to the bathroom. I'd installed a recording app the day before, and sure enough, when I retrieved it later, I had exactly what I needed. Kayla's voice. What are we going to do? If she activates the trust fund early. Frederick, calm down. This changes nothing. Kayla, but the Chicago apartment? Frederick, I said calm down. Let me handle it. That evening, I met with Samson again, playing him the recording. This is good, he said, adding it to his growing file. But we need more, especially if you want to void the prenup completely. What about the bank transfers? Those help, but we need something concrete about their plans after the wedding. He hesitated. There's one more thing. Your sister's been to the doctor recently. Multiple times. My stomach dropped. Tell me. OB/GYN visits, 3 of them in the past month. I leaned back in my chair, letting out a long breath. She's pregnant. Looks that way. Want me to confirm? No need. I pulled out my phone, showing him a photo I'd taken at the cake tasting. She didn't touch the champagne, not a single sip. The next day, I had lunch with Madison, my cousin, and the family gossip. I needed to plant some seeds. I'm worried about Kayla, I said, watching Madison's eyes light up. She's been acting strange lately. Strange how? Just different, emotional, and she's been avoiding alcohol. Madison gasped. You don't think? I'm sure it's nothing, I said quickly. Just wedding stress. But keep an eye on her for me? Of course. Madison was practically vibrating with excitement. You know me, always happy to help. That afternoon, Frederick called. About the trust fund, he started. Yes? Are you sure you want to activate it early? It seems unnecessary. I twirled my pen, thinking about the recording in my possession. Having second thoughts about our future? What? No, of course not. He paused. I love you, Reagan. You know that, right? I know exactly how much you love me, I replied. Don't worry about the trust fund. I've got it all under control. After hanging up, I called Rachel. They took the bait, I told her. All of it. The pregnancy? Confirmed. Madison's already spreading the whispers, just like I knew she would. And the trust fund? Frederick's sweating. He thinks I'm activating it early, which means he and Kayla are probably accelerating their plans. Rachel was quiet for a moment. Are you sure you want to wait until the wedding day? Why not confront them now? I looked at the calendar on my wall, the wedding date circled in red. Because some things are worth waiting for. They chose their moment to betray me. I'm choosing my moment to destroy them. My phone buzzed with a text from Kayla. Can we talk? Just us sisters? Of course, I typed back. Dinner tomorrow? Perfect. Love you so much. I smiled at my phone, thinking about the recording app I'd be running during our entire dinner. Love you too, sis. Can't wait to hear everything you have to tell me. The pieces were falling into place one by one, and soon, very soon, they'd all come crashing down. Dinner with Kayla was a master class in manipulation. She chose a quiet Italian restaurant, the same one where Frederick had taken her on their first secret date, according to Sampson's report. The irony wasn't lost on me. Reagan, she started, fidgeting with her water glass. I need to tell you something. Is everything okay? I reached across the table to touch her hand, noting how she flinched. You seem nervous. She swallowed hard. I met someone. I kept my expression neutral. Oh? It's serious, really serious. Her hand drifted unconsciously to her stomach. But it's complicated. Complicated how? Before she could answer, her phone buzzed. Frederick's name flashed across the screen. She flipped it face down too quickly. Work, she muttered, always calling. Must be busy at the jewelry store, I said innocently. All those engagement rings. She paled slightly. Right, yeah. The waiter arrived with our drinks. Wine for me, sparkling water for her. I raised my glass. To complicated love? Reagan, She looked like she might cry. You're my sister. I never wanted to. Never wanted to what? She shook her head. Nothing. Never mind. Let's talk about the wedding. How's the dress hunting going? Actually, I said, I found the perfect one. Want to see? I pulled out my phone, showing her a photo of an elaborate white gown. The same one I'd caught her trying on secretly last week, according to the bridal shop owner who'd called me. Her face went from pale to green. It's beautiful. Isn't it? I'm having it altered next week. You should come. I can't, she said quickly. I have appointments. Doctor appointments? I asked softly. She knocked over her water glass. How did you... Madison mentioned you weren't feeling well. I helped her mop up the spill. Is there something you want to tell me? No. She grabbed her purse. I mean, not yet. I have to go. After she fled, I called Rachel. She almost confessed, I told her. About the pregnancy, at least, not about Frederick. Did you get it recorded? Every word. I forwarded her the audio file, including Frederick's perfectly timed text. The next morning, I had breakfast with my mother. She was reviewing wedding details when Madison burst in. Aunt Evelyn, Reagan, you'll never believe what I heard. My mother sighed. Madison, dear, Kayla's pregnant. She told Sarah at yoga, who told Amanda, who told me. I watched my mother's coffee cup freeze halfway to her lips. What? I know, and get this, she won't say who the father is. Reagan, my mother turned to me. Did you know about this? I had my suspicions, I said carefully. She's been acting strange lately. Strange how? Ask Frederick, Madison piped up. They've been having a lot of business lunches lately. My mother's eyes narrowed. What exactly are you implying? Nothing, I said quickly. I'm sure there's a perfectly reasonable explanation. Later that day, Frederick called, sounding agitated. Your mother just called me. Oh? She was asking weird questions about Kayla, about our business lunches. I let the silence stretch. And? And nothing. They're just lunches. Planning your wedding gift, actually. How thoughtful, I said, thinking of the Chicago apartment lease in my desk drawer. You've always been so generous. That evening, Samson delivered his final report. They're planning to leave the night of the wedding. Tickets to Chicago are already booked. Both of them? Yes, and there's more. He handed me a document. Your sister's pregnancy test results. 12 weeks along. I did the math. The night of our engagement party. I'm sorry, he said quietly. Don't be. I opened my laptop, pulling up the trust fund documents. This is exactly what I needed. My phone lit up with a text from Kayla. Can we talk tomorrow, please? It's important. Sorry, sis, I typed back. Crazy day of wedding preparations, but I'll see you at the rehearsal dinner next week. Rachel called just as I was finishing up with Samson. Madison's spreading the pregnancy rumors like wildfire, she reported. Your mother's asking questions. Frederick's panicking. Are you sure you want to wait? I looked at the calendar again. 3 weeks until the wedding. The longer they think they're getting away with it, the sloppier they get, I explained. Besides, I want witnesses, lots of them. You're terrifying, Rachel said, but I could hear the admiration in her voice. No, I corrected her. I'm just giving them exactly what they deserve, a moment they'll never forget. I picked up the pregnancy test results, sliding them into my growing file of evidence. After all, I added, what's a wedding without a few surprises? The rehearsal dinner was a powder keg waiting to explode. I watched Kayla adjust her loose-fitting dress for the 100th time, while Frederick kept checking his phone under the table. They'd barely looked at each other all evening, but their panic was palpable. A toast, Madison stood, champagne flute in hand. To the happy couple. Kayla's face went ash white as the servers poured champagne. When they reached her, she waved them away. Not drinking, dear? Patricia asked, her lawyer's instincts clearly tingling. That's the 3rd time this week I've seen you refuse champagne. My mother's head snapped up. Kayla? I'm on antibiotics, Kayla stammered. Funny, Madison chimed in. Sarah from yoga said, Madison. My mother cut her off sharply. Not now. Frederick loosened his tie. Maybe we should start the dinner. Actually, I said, standing up, I'd like to say something first. The room fell silent. Kayla gripped her water glass so hard I thought it might shatter. I just want to thank everyone for being here, I began, especially my dear sister, Kayla. You've been so involved in the wedding planning. Always there every step of the way, sometimes in places I didn't even expect. Frederick's fork clattered against his plate. And Frederick, I continued, you've been absolutely incredible at juggling everything. Work, wedding planning, all those late-night meetings and business lunches. Your dedication is remarkable. Rachel, sitting beside me, squeezed my knee under the table, our signal that I was pushing it too far. To family, I finished, raising my glass, and to secrets that can't stay buried forever. What's that supposed to mean? My mother asked sharply. Nothing, Frederick jumped in. She's just emotional. Wedding jitters. Later, in the restaurant's powder room, I overheard Kayla throwing up. Madison was right behind her. Are you sure you're okay? Madison asked. Because my friend's cousin is an OB/GYN, and I'm fine, Kayla snapped. Just food poisoning. For 3 weeks straight? I slipped out before they could see me, almost running into Patricia in the hallway. "Reagan," she said quietly, "we need to talk." She led me to a quiet corner. "I've been a divorce attorney for 30 years. I know when something's wrong. What's going on?" "Why don't you ask your son?" Her eyes narrowed. "I'm asking you." "The wedding's in 2 days," I said. "Trust me, everything will become clear then." Back at the table, Frederick was deep in conversation with my mother. "Just concerned about Kayla," I heard her say. "She's not herself lately." "I'm sure she's fine," Frederick replied, but his hand shook as he reached for his wine. My phone buzzed, a text from Samson. "Chicago apartment lease signed today, both names on it." "Everything okay?" Frederick asked, noticing my expression. "Perfect," I smiled. "Just wedding details." After dinner, Rachel pulled me aside. "Your mother's asking questions. Madison's practically bursting to spill everything she knows. Maybe we should—" "No," I cut her off. 2 more days. That's all we need." "But what if Kayla breaks first? She looked ready to confess tonight." "She won't," I said confidently. "She's too afraid of losing everything. The money, Frederick, the family's respect. And you're not afraid of losing anything?" I watched Kayla and Frederick having a heated whispered argument by the coat check. "I already lost everything the moment they betrayed me. Now I'm just making sure they lose more." My mother caught up with me as I was leaving. "Reagan, honey, is there something you're not telling me? About Kayla?" "Mom," I said, hugging her, "in 2 days, everything will make sense. I promise." She held me at arm's length, studying my face. "You're planning something, aren't you? Just like when you were little and Kayla stole your toys." "I'm not planning anything," I lied smoothly. "I'm just preparing for my perfect day." As I left the restaurant, I heard Kayla call out, "Reagan, wait." I turned. "Yes?" She stood there, one hand on her stomach, mouth opening and closing. Finally, she just said, "I love you. You know that, right?" "I know exactly how much you love me," I replied, thinking of the evidence file waiting at home. "See you at the wedding, sis." In my car, I checked my phone one last time. A text from Frederick. "Everything okay? You seemed off tonight." "Just nervous about the big day," I replied. "Can't wait to surprise everyone." Rachel called as I was driving home. Last chance to call this off. I thought about the pregnancy test results, the Chicago apartment lease, the bank transfers, and all the lies. "No," I said firmly. "They chose their moment to betray me. Saturday, I choose my moment to destroy them." "And then what?" I smiled in the darkness of my car. "And then I walk away, leaving them with nothing but each other and their guilt." The morning of my wedding dawned bright and clear. I sat in the bridal suite, watching the makeup artist work on Kayla's face, noting how her hands kept drifting to her stomach when she thought no one was looking. "You're so calm," Rachel whispered, adjusting my veil. "It's almost scary." "Everything's ready?" I murmured back. She nodded. Samson delivered the final package to the officiant. "Madison's been properly prepped. Your mother's still suspicious, but she's focused on the ceremony." "And the trust fund papers?" "Filed yesterday. It's all yours now." Kayla approached, looking pale despite the makeup. "Can we talk? Privately?" "Now?" I checked the time. "We're due at the church in an hour." "Please," she begged. "It's important." I followed her into the bathroom, where she immediately burst into tears. "I can't do this," she sobbed. "I can't watch you." A knock at the door interrupted her. "Kayla?" It was Frederick. "Are you in there?" "No men allowed," Rachel called out. "Bad luck." "I need to speak with her," he insisted. "It's urgent." I opened the door just enough to see his face. "Everything okay, honey?" Yes, just wedding day jitters." His eyes darted to the bathroom behind me. "Is Kayla?" She's touching up her makeup, I said sweetly. Want me to give her a message? He tugged at his collar. No, no message. As the hour approached, the bridal suite became a flurry of activity. My mother fussed with my dress while Madison hovered nearby, practically vibrating with suppressed gossip. Reagan, Madison whispered when we were alone, I have to tell you something about Kayla. Not now, I cut her off. Everything's perfect. Let's keep it that way. The church filled quickly. I watched through a crack in the door as Frederick paced at the altar, checking his phone every few minutes. Kayla sat in the front row, clutching her bouquet like a lifeline. Last chance, Rachel said, squeezing my hand. We could still call this off. And miss the show? I smiled. Never. My mother appeared, tears in her eyes. Darling, you look beautiful. But are you sure about this? You seem different lately. I've never been more sure of anything in my life. The music started. The bridesmaids lined up, Kayla taking her place as maid of honor. Her hands were shaking so badly she almost dropped her flowers. Ready? My father asked, offering his arm. More than ready. As we prepared to walk down the aisle, I heard Madison's excited whisper to another bridesmaid. Just wait. This is going to be better than any reality TV show. The doors opened. Everyone stood. Frederick's face was a mask of forced happiness, but I could see the sweat on his brow. Halfway down the aisle, Kayla swayed slightly. The woman next to her steadied her with a concerned look. Poor thing, someone whispered. Must be the heat. I took my place at the altar, watching Frederick's face as the officiant began to speak. He couldn't look me in the eye. Before we begin, the officiant announced, exactly as I'd arranged, the bride has requested a moment to share some words. Frederick's head snapped up. This wasn't part of the plan. I turned to face our guests, my voice clear and steady. I want to thank everyone for being here today, especially those who've been particularly invested in this wedding. In fact, I'm pregnant, Kayla suddenly burst out, her voice echoing through the church. I'm pregnant, and it's Frederick's baby. The church erupted in gasps and murmurs. My mother's hand flew to her mouth. Frederick went pale, but I didn't move, didn't flinch. Instead, I smiled. I know, I said calmly. Kayla's eyes widened. What? I've known for weeks about everything. The affair, the Chicago apartment, the money transfers. I turned to Frederick. Did you really think I wouldn't find out? Reagan, he started, reaching for me. I stepped back. Just don't. Madison, right on cue, stood up. I have copies of everything, the lease, the bank statements, the pregnancy test. The chaos that followed was exactly what I'd planned for. But I wasn't done yet. One more thing, I said, my voice cutting through the uproar. Frederick, remember that trust fund you were so interested in? The one you and Kayla were counting on? He nodded numbly. I activated it yesterday, and as of this morning, every penny has been donated to a women's shelter for victims of betrayal. All perfectly legal, all completely irreversible. The color drained from both their faces as they realized what I'd done. Now, I said, removing my veil, if you'll excuse me, I have a life to get back to. One without either of you in it. The church exploded into chaos. My mother lunged at Frederick, her perfectly manicured nails nearly catching his face. You monster, both of you! Patricia, Frederick's mother, stood up calmly. As a divorce attorney, I should mention that everything Reagan just described constitutes fraud, legally actionable fraud. Mom, Frederick protested. Don't mom me, she snapped. I raised you better than this. Kayla stumbled forward, mascara streaming down her face. Reagan, please, let me explain. Explain what? I asked coolly. how you slept with my fiancé the night of our engagement party, or how you plan to run away to Chicago with him after the wedding. Madison, ever helpful, started passing out copies of the evidence to nearby guests. Look, here's the apartment lease and the bank transfers. That's enough, Madison, Rachel called out, but she was grinning. Frederick finally found his voice. The trust fund, all of it? You gave away all of it? Every penny, I confirmed. Consider it my wedding gift to women who actually deserve help. My father, who had been unusually quiet, suddenly stepped forward. Frederick, I suggest you leave, now, before I forget I'm in a house of God. This isn't what it looks like, Kayla pleaded, one hand on her stomach. We fell in love. Love? I laughed. Is that what you call betraying your sister? Planning to steal her money? Tell me, Kayla, does he know about your shopping addiction? The credit card debt? Frederick's head whipped toward her. What debt? Oh, I said innocently, you didn't share that detail, just like she probably didn't tell you the trust fund was worth 8 figures, not 7. His face contorted. 8? And now it's gone, I smiled, along with your Chicago dreams. Samson appeared at the back of the church, right on schedule. Ms. Reagan, everything's been processed. The donations are complete and irreversible. You can't do this, Frederick shouted. Actually, Patricia interjected, she can. The trust was in her name. Activated yesterday, if I heard correctly. Quite clever, really. My mother had moved from anger to cold fury. Kayla, I suggest you leave too, and don't bother coming to Sunday dinners anymore. Mom, please. I have one daughter now, she said firmly, just one. The guests were torn between watching the drama unfold and awkwardly heading for the exits. Madison was recording everything on her phone. For social media? Rachel asked her. Family archives, Madison replied cheerfully. Future generations need to know what happens to cheaters. Frederick made one last attempt, approaching me with his hands raised. Reagan, baby, we can talk about this. Sir, Samson stepped between us. I'm armed security. I suggest you back away. You hired security? Kayla gasped. I hired everything I needed, I replied. A detective to follow you, lawyers to protect the trust fund, security to ensure today went smoothly. I even hired a real estate agent. A real estate agent? Frederick looked confused. To sell our house, I clarified. Well, my house now. The papers were signed yesterday, another wedding gift to myself. The color drained from his face. Where am I supposed to live? I hear Chicago's nice, I suggested, though you might need to downgrade your apartment plans now. Patricia approached me, holding out a business card. When you're ready to file charges for financial fraud, call me. First consultation's free. Mom, Frederick protested again. Oh, I'm sorry, she said. Did you think I'd support you stealing from your fiancé while sleeping with her sister? I raised a fool, apparently. Kayla sank into a pew, sobbing. What are we going to do? That's not my problem anymore, I said, turning to leave. Though I hear there's a nice women's shelter that just received a very generous donation. Maybe they can help. Rachel fell into step beside me as I walked down the aisle. That was both the best and worst wedding I've ever attended. The day's not over, I replied. There's still a fully catered reception waiting. You're not canceling it? And waste all that food and champagne? Besides, I smiled, I think we all deserve a celebration, just not the one they were expecting. As I reached the church doors, I turned back one last time. Frederick and Kayla stood there, shell-shocked and defeated, while my mother consoled my father and Madison continued her enthusiastic documentation. Oh, and Kayla, I called out, that dress you wanted so badly, the one you tried on behind my back, I bought it yesterday, donated it to a bride who actually deserves a happy ending. The sunlight hit my face as I stepped outside, and for the first time in months, I felt truly free. Ready? Rachel asked. Absolutely, I replied. I hear the cake is to die for. The reception venue looked stunning, exactly as I'd planned it. White roses everywhere, crystal chandeliers, and a dance floor that wouldn't stay empty for long. You really kept the reception? Madison bounced excitedly. This is legendary. Guests filtered in, awkwardly at first, then with increasing enthusiasm as they realized the open bar was still very much operational. To Reagan! Rachel raised her champagne glass. The most brilliant bride who never was. The room erupted in cheers. Even Patricia joined in, looking more relaxed than I'd ever seen her. I filed the preliminary fraud paperwork, she told me, sipping her martini. Frederick's going to have an interesting week ahead. My mother appeared at my elbow. Darling, there's something you should know. Your sister and Frederick, they tried to check into the honeymoon suite at the plaza. I finished for her. I know, the hotel called to verify the reservation. And I had it transferred to the women's shelter director. She and her husband could use a vacation. My mother's face broke into a proud smile. That's my girl. The band I'd hired started playing, and people gradually filled the dance floor. What had been planned as a wedding reception had transformed into something better, a celebration of justice served. Reagan, my father approached, holding out his hand. May I have this dance? As we swayed to the music, he cleared his throat. I should have seen it, all those business lunches, the late meetings. It's not your fault, Dad. No, but I should have raised them better, both of them. You raised me just fine, I smiled, and that's what matters. Samson appeared briefly to deliver his final report. They're at a motel off the highway. Want me to keep tracking them? No need, I said. They're not my problem anymore. Madison rushed over, phone in hand. You have to see this. Kayla's posted on social media. The post read, sometimes love makes you do crazy things, but karma makes you pay for them. Frederick and I are starting over, together. Check the comments, Madison grinned. Patricia had written, starting over with what money? Rachel grabbed my arm. Look who just walked in. Standing in the doorway was James, the Chicago job recruiter I'd been working with. I heard you might be more interested in that position now, he said, approaching with a smile. No complications holding you back? None whatsoever, I replied. When can I start? How's Monday? The cake cutting came next, a tradition I'd insisted on keeping. As I sliced into the top tier, Rachel whispered, shame to waste such a beautiful cake. Oh, it's not being wasted, I assured her. I had it redesigned yesterday. Check out the filling. She peered closer at the red velvet interior. Is that the same shade as betrayal? I laughed. The baker thought I was crazy, but she managed it perfectly. Later, as the party was winding down, my mother found me on the balcony. I just got off the phone with your grandmother, she said. She's furious about the trust fund. My heart skipped a beat. Furious she didn't think of donating to the women's shelter herself, my mother continued. She's matching your donation. I burst out laughing. Really? Says it's the best wedding present she never gave. Inside, Madison was showing guests the evidence folder, now transformed into what she called a cautionary tale scrapbook. Patricia had added legal annotations to each page. Ready to go? Rachel asked, joining me on the balcony. I looked back at the reception, my family, friends, and supporters all celebrating not a wedding, but something better, the truth. Almost, I said. Just need to do one last thing. I pulled out my phone and opened social media. Under Kayla's post, I wrote, sometimes love makes you do crazy things, but sisterhood should make you think twice. Enjoy Chicago. I hear the winters are brutal. P.S. The women's shelter says thank you for the trust fund. They're naming their new building the Karma Center. Brutal, Rachel laughed. I love it. Let's go, I said, picking up my purse. I have an apartment to pack up and a new life to start. You know what's funny? Rachel mused as we walked out. They thought they were writing some grand love story. But instead, they became a cautionary tale, and you became the hero. I paused at the door, taking one last look at the celebration behind me. The band was playing I Will Survive, and everyone was on their feet dancing. You know what the best revenge is? I asked. Living well? No, I smiled, stepping into the night air. The best revenge is making sure everyone knows exactly who you are and showing them you're so much more than they thought you could be. Behind us, the party continued, celebrating not the wedding that wasn't, but the truth that finally was.
The moment my sister announced her pregnancy at my baby shower, I knew exactly whose child she was carrying. I'd known for weeks, but hearing the words come out of Sienna's mouth made my stomach turn. The pink and blue balloons suddenly felt like they were closing in on me, mocking the perfect life I'd pretended to have. My name is Melanie, and I was supposed to be celebrating my own miracle pregnancy after years of trying. Instead, I sat there, surrounded by friends and family, watching my younger sister steal my moment with the precision of a surgeon wielding a knife. I just couldn't keep it in any longer, Sienna squealed, her hand resting on her still flat stomach. I'm going to be a mommy too! The room erupted in excited chatter, but I kept my eyes fixed on my husband Leon. He stood frozen by the punch bowl, his face drained of color. 6 years of marriage, and I'd never seen him look so terrified. As we move through this narrative, we'd love to know where you're watching from today. Also, if these stories resonate with you, consider subscribing for daily episodes. Now, continuing our story. Oh my goodness, this is wonderful! My mother Violet exclaimed, rushing to embrace Sienna. Both my girls pregnant at the same time! Who's the father? The silence that followed was deafening. I counted the seconds, watching Sienna's perfectly glossed lips quiver. 3, 2, 1. I'd rather not say right now, she stammered, shooting a quick glance at Leon. I stood up slowly, steadying myself against the chair. Why don't you tell them, Sienna? Or should I? Melanie, please. Leon stepped forward, his voice trembling. We should talk about this privately. Private? I laughed, the sound harsh and foreign to my own ears. Like those private meetings you've been having with my sister for the past 3 months? Gasps filled the room. My friend Isabel grabbed my hand, squeezing it tight. Mel, breathe, she whispered. The father, I announced, my voice carrying across the stunned silence, is standing right there by the punch bowl. My husband, Leon. The room exploded into chaos. My mother collapsed into my father's arms, while Wendy, Leon's mother, stood rigid with shock. Sienna burst into tears, mascara running down her cheeks. How did you know? She sobbed. I pulled out my phone, fingers steady as I typed in my passcode. Because I have proof. Would anyone like to see the security camera footage from my own home? The cameras I installed 3 weeks ago when I first suspected something was wrong? You recorded us? Leon's face contorted with anger. That's illegal. Actually, it's not. I consulted a lawyer before installing cameras in my own home. Would you like to see yourself sneaking my sister in through the back door while I was at my prenatal appointments? Or maybe the footage from last Tuesday, when you thought I was having lunch with Isabel? Sienna lunged forward, reaching for my phone. Delete it! You can't show anyone! Watch me! I stepped back, cradling my bump protectively. You both chose to betray me in my own home, while I'm carrying your child, Leon. Did you think I wouldn't find out? I love him, Sienna blurted out, tears streaming down her face. We didn't mean for this to happen. I turned to face her, years of competitive sisterhood crystallizing into this moment. You didn't mean to sleep with my husband, multiple times, in my bed, while I was trying to help him build his political career. Melanie! My father's stern voice cut through the chaos. This isn't the way to handle family matters. Family matters? I echoed. Is that what we're calling adultery now? Leon approached me, hands raised in surrender. Baby, please, we can work this out. Think about our child. I am thinking about our child, I replied coldly. I'm thinking about how they deserve better than a father who cheats with their aunt. Wendy suddenly appeared at my side, her presence unexpected and steady. Leon, how could you do this to your wife, to your unborn child? The support from my mother-in-law, who had always been critical of me, nearly broke my composure. But I held firm, remembering the nights I'd spent crying while watching the footage, preparing for this moment. Everyone needs to leave, I announced, my voice steady. The party's over, and Leon, don't bother coming home tonight, or ever. As the guests filed out in shocked silence, Isabel stayed by my side. Sienna tried one last time to approach me, but Wendy stepped between us. You've done enough damage, Wendy told her coldly. When the last guest had gone, I sank into a chair, surrounded by cheerful baby shower decorations that now seemed like props in a horror show. Isabel brought me water, her hand rubbing circles on my back. What are you going to do now? She asked softly. I placed my hand on my stomach, feeling my baby kick. Now? Now I'm going to show the world exactly who Leon Hall really is. He wanted to be in the public eye so badly? Well, he's about to get his wish. I pulled up the video footage on my phone, my finger hovering over the upload button. 6 years of supporting his political dreams, of putting my filmmaking career on hold, of being the perfect politician's wife. All of it had led to this moment. Are you sure about this? Isabel asked. I pressed upload. I've never been more sure of anything in my life. The video had barely finished uploading when my phone started buzzing with notifications. I sat in my home office, surrounded by the equipment I'd once used for my documentaries, now collecting dust while I'd played the role of supportive political wife. Isabel paced behind me, biting her nails. The views are climbing fast, Mel. Really fast. Good. I clicked through the footage again, making sure I hadn't missed anything in the edit. The timestamps were clear, the audio crisp. There would be no denying what they'd done. My phone rang. Leon's campaign manager. Ignore. Another call. Sienna. Ignore. My mother. Ignore. Remember when we were in film school? I asked Isabel, gesturing to the awards on my shelf. My documentary about women in politics won that festival in Boston. How could I forget? You were brilliant. Isabel stopped pacing. And then you met Leon. The memory hit me like a punch to the gut. He was so charming back then, said all the right things about supporting my career, about how we'd be partners. My phone buzzed again. This time it was Parker, my old film school friend. I answered on speaker. Holy shit, Mel! His voice crackled through. Your video is everywhere. Twitter's exploding. Is it? I tried to sound casual, but my heart was racing. The rising star politician caught with his pregnant sister-in-law? It's media gold. But listen, that's not why I'm calling. The footage quality, the editing. You haven't lost your touch. I laughed bitterly. Glad my husband's affair could showcase my filmmaking skills. I'm serious, Mel. Remember that documentary series we talked about years ago? About women rebuilding their lives after betrayal? Before I could respond, the doorbell rang. Isabel peered through the window. It's your parents, she whispered, and they look pissed. I took a deep breath. Parker, I'll call you back. Opening the door, I faced my father's thunderous expression and my mother's tear-stained face. What have you done? My father pushed past me into the house. Do you have any idea what this will do to our family? Our family! I shut the door harder than necessary. You mean the family where my sister slept with my husband? We could have handled this privately, my mother pleaded. Now everyone knows. The neighbors, our church. Good. I stood my ground. Let them know. Let them see exactly who Sienna and Leon really are. You're carrying his child. My father's voice boomed through the house. Did you think about your baby's future before you posted that video? I thought about giving my child a mother who stands up for herself instead of playing pretend while being humiliated. My mother sank onto the couch. Sienna called us sobbing. She says she can't leave her apartment. Reporters are camped outside. That's rich, Isabel muttered. She didn't mind sneaking around when it suited her. My father turned on her. This doesn't concern you. Actually, it does, I cut in. Isabel has been more family to me than either of you right now. Where was this outrage when your younger daughter was destroying my marriage? The doorbell rang again. This time it was Wendy, carrying several bags. I brought your favorite pasta from Giovanni's, she announced, walking straight to the kitchen. And some of those chocolate cookies you've been craving. My parents stared in disbelief as Leon's mother began unpacking groceries like it was any normal day. Wendy, my mother started, surely you understand this public scandal isn't helping anyone. What I understand, Wendy replied sharply, is that my son and your daughter betrayed my pregnant daughter-in-law. The public scandal is their doing, not Melanie's. My father stepped forward. Now listen here. No, you listen. Wendy's voice could have frozen hell. I raised Leon better than this, and I'm ashamed of him. But I'm even more ashamed of you two, defending the indefensible. My phone buzzed again. Parker texting. Seriously, call me about the documentary. This could be your comeback. Looking around my office at the dusty equipment, I felt something stir inside me. Not just anger or hurt, but possibility. You know what? I addressed my parents. You're right. I did think about my baby's future. I thought about what kind of example I want to set. Should I teach them to stay quiet when they're wronged? To protect people who hurt them? Melanie, my mother began. No, I gave up my dreams to support Leon's career. I played the perfect wife while he... My voice cracked. While he slept with my sister. I'm done being quiet. Wendy appeared with a plate of cookies. Eat something, dear. The baby needs it. My father threw up his hands in frustration. This is insane. You're all insane. Maybe, I said, taking a cookie, but I'm not the one who cheated. Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to call Parker back. I have a documentary to plan. As my parents left in angry silence, I caught Wendy smiling slightly. What? I asked. Nothing, she replied. I just remember when Leon first brought you home. I thought you were too ambitious, too independent for him. Now I realize he was never good enough for you. I picked up my phone, finding Parker's number. Maybe it was time to be ambitious again. The pounding on my front door started at 7 a.m. I knew it was Leon before I even checked the security camera feed on my phone. Wendy, who'd insisted on staying overnight, was already heading toward the door. Don't, I called out. Let him knock. Melanie! Leon's voice carried through the door. I know you're in there. We need to talk. Wendy's face hardened. That's my son out there, and I have some choice words for him. Before I could stop her, she yanked the door open. Leon stood there in his rumpled suit from yesterday, looking like he hadn't slept. Mother? His eyes widened. What are you doing here? Supporting the woman you betrayed, Wendy replied coldly. The one carrying my grandchild. Leon pushed past her into the house. The video, Melanie, you have to take it down. My campaign team is in meltdown. Your campaign team? I laughed. That's what you're worried about? This isn't just about us anymore. He ran his hands through his disheveled hair. The party chairman called. They're withdrawing their support. Everything we worked for. So, everything you worked for, I corrected him, while I put my life on hold to be your perfect political wife. Please, he stepped closer. We can fix this. I'll do anything. Counseling, whatever you want. Wendy moved between us. The time for fixing things was before you slept with her sister. Mother, stay out of this. Don't you dare speak to her like that, I snapped. She's been more supportive than you've ever been. Leon's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, his face paling. The local news wants a statement. Sienna's being harassed at work. This is getting out of control. Out of control? I walked to my office and returned with a USB drive. Like sneaking around behind my back wasn't out of control. Here, want to watch the highlights reel? You're being vindictive, he accused. No, I'm being honest. Something you should try sometime. His phone buzzed again. This time, he answered. Yes, sir. No, sir. I understand. I'll be there in 20 minutes. After hanging up, he looked at me pleadingly. That was the party chairman. He's giving me one chance to salvage this. Come with me. Tell them it was a misunderstanding, that the video was taken out of context. Are you insane? Wendy interjected. You want her to lie for you? It's not lying, it's damage control. I placed my hand on my stomach, feeling my baby kick. Get out! Melanie, get out. My voice was steel. And take these with you. I threw a stack of papers at him. Divorce papers. My lawyer dropped them off last night. Leon picked up the papers, his hands shaking. You can't be serious. Think about the baby. I am thinking about the baby. I'm thinking about how I don't want them growing up watching their father lie and cheat his way through life. You've ruined everything, he spat, his charming politician's mask finally cracking. My career, my reputation. You ruined those things yourself, Wendy cut in. Now leave before I forget you're my son. After Leon stormed out, my phone rang. It was Parker again. Tell me you're watching the news, he said when I answered. I'm trying not to. Well, your story's gone viral. 3 networks want interviews. But forget them. I've got better news. Remember my producer friend at Summit Productions? She wants to meet about your documentary idea. I sat down hard. What? Your video showed everyone you haven't lost your touch. Plus, you've got a built-in hook now. Personal experience with betrayal, revenge, redemption. It's compelling stuff. Wendy brought me a glass of water. Concern on her face. I don't know, Parker. I'm about to be a single mom. I've got divorce proceedings to deal with. Which is exactly why you should do this. When's the last time you felt excited about your work? Really excited? I glanced at my old camera equipment, remembering the thrill of capturing real stories, of creating something meaningful. The meeting's tomorrow at 10, Parker continued. I'll pick you up. Say yes. Wendy squeezed my shoulder. Say yes, dear. It's time you started living for yourself again. I took a deep breath. Okay. Yes. After hanging up, I opened my laptop to find my inbox flooded with messages. One caught my eye, from Sienna. Please talk to me. I know I don't deserve it, but please, I'm so sorry. Wendy peered at the screen. Are you going to respond? I closed the laptop. Not today. Today, I'm going to dig out my old storyboards and start planning my comeback. That's my girl, Wendy smiled. And Melanie? For what it's worth, I always thought you were wasted on political wives' luncheons. I felt tears welling up, but for the first time in weeks, they weren't from sadness. Thank you, Wendy, for everything. Don't thank me yet, she replied, heading to the kitchen. Wait until you taste my morning sickness remedy. It's disgusting, but it works. I smiled, placing my hand on my bump again. Maybe, just maybe, something good could come from all this pain. Parker's Tesla pulled up to Summit Productions exactly at 9:45 a.m. I smoothed my maternity dress, trying to look professional despite my growing bump. Stop fidgeting, Parker said, opening my door. You look great. I look like I'm smuggling a watermelon. You look like a badass filmmaker who's about to get her second chance. The lobby was all glass and chrome, worlds away from the political fundraisers I'd gotten used to. A receptionist led us to a conference room where Sarah, the producer Parker had mentioned, was waiting. Melanie! She stood to greet me. Your video's gotten 3 million views since yesterday. But more importantly, the raw emotion, the timing of those cuts. Brilliant work. I settled into a chair. Thank you, though I wish the subject matter had been different. That's exactly what I want to talk about. Sarah pulled out a tablet. Your story, successful woman betrayed by husband and sister, using her art to expose the truth. It's compelling. But what if we went bigger? Bigger? A documentary series. Women who faced betrayal and emerged stronger. Your story would be the thread that ties it all together, but we'd feature others too. Show how different women handle similar pain. My phone buzzed. Another message from Sienna. I turned it face down. Speaking of pain, Parker interjected, have you seen the morning news? Sarah nodded. Your husband's press conference? Already trending. What press conference? Sarah turned her tablet toward me, showing Leon standing at a podium, Sienna by his side. My stomach lurched. Deeply regret any pain we've caused, Leon was saying. While the circumstances are unfortunate, Sienna and I are committed to taking responsibility for our actions and moving forward together. Turn it off, I whispered. They're trying to control the narrative, Parker said. Make themselves look like star-crossed lovers instead of cheaters, which is exactly why your documentary could be so powerful. Sarah leaned forward. Let's tell the real story, not just yours, but every woman who's been told to stay quiet, to save face, to think of the family. My phone buzzed again. This time it was my mother. Have you seen the news? Please call us. We can still fix this. Fix what? I muttered. Their public image? Use it, Sarah said. Channel that anger into something meaningful. Summit's prepared to offer you full creative control and a budget that'll let you do this right. Before I could respond, the conference room door burst open. Isabel rushed in, out of breath. Sorry to interrupt, but you need to see this. She held up her phone, showing a social media post from Sienna. My sister's video only showed one side. The truth is more complicated. Leon and I found love in an impossible situation. We never meant to hurt anyone. Found love? My voice shook. In my house? While I was pregnant? There's more. Isabel scrolled down. People are actually defending them, calling it a love story. Some are saying you're the villain for exposing them. Sarah watched me carefully. How does that make you feel? Like I want to scream. I stood up, pacing. Like I want everyone to know what it feels like to have your life blown apart by the two people you trusted most. So tell them, Parker said quietly. Not through revenge videos, but through real stories. Show them what betrayal really looks like, what survival really costs. My phone buzzed yet again. A text from Wendy. Don't let their press conference get to you. You're stronger than their lies. Looking around the room, at Parker's encouragement, Isabel's fierce loyalty, Sarah's professional interest, I felt something click into place. If we do this, I turned to Sarah, I want to interview them too. Other betrayed spouses, other siblings who've been betrayed. Show all sides of what infidelity does to families. Absolutely. Sarah was already taking notes. We could start production next month. I'm pregnant, I reminded her. Due in 4 months. Even better. Your journey through pregnancy, divorce, and professional rebirth? That's compelling television. And healing, Parker added. Don't forget that part. My phone lit up with another message from Sienna. Please, let me explain. I never meant for any of this to happen. I picked up the phone, finally ready to respond. You're right. The truth is complicated. That's why I'm going to tell all of it. Does that mean you're in? Sarah asked. I looked at my reflection in the conference room window. Pregnant, scared, but somehow stronger than I'd been in years. I'm in, but I want to start filming today, right now, while their press conference is still fresh. Sarah grinned. I'll have contracts drawn up within the hour. Parker, can you get a crew together? Already texting them. Isabel squeezed my hand. You're really doing this? Yes, I said, feeling more certain with each passing moment. It's time to show the world what really happens after the affair is exposed, after the scandal dies down, after the pretty lies fall apart. And what happens then? Sarah asked. Then? I smiled, thinking of my baby, my future, my rediscovered passion. Then we rise from the ashes, and we film every second of it. 2 weeks into filming, my living room had become a makeshift studio. Camera equipment replaced the political campaign photos I'd taken down, and release forms covered the coffee table where Leon's polling data used to sit. Tell me about the moment you first suspected something was wrong, Parker asked from behind the camera. I adjusted my position on the couch, one hand resting on my growing belly. It was little things at first. Leon working late, Sienna showing up at odd hours, claiming she was just in the neighborhood. Cut, Sarah called from her director's chair. Melanie, that's good. But let's dig deeper. What did it feel like? Before I could answer, the doorbell rang. Through the security camera feed, I saw Wendy standing there with several shopping bags. 5-minute break, Sarah announced as I went to answer the door. I brought maternity clothes, Wendy announced, bustling in. And before you protest, these are designer pieces from my boutique. The camera will love them. Mom? A familiar voice called from behind her. I froze as Leon stepped into view. What are you doing here? I backed away. I invited him, Wendy said firmly. It's time you two discussed the divorce terms face to face. With a film crew present? The crew can leave, Leon said quickly. Please, Melanie, 10 minutes? Sarah caught my eye from across the room, raising an eyebrow. I nodded slightly, and she ushered everyone out, leaving just me, Leon, and Wendy. I'll be in the kitchen, Wendy said. Behave yourselves. Leon looked around the transformed living room. So you're really doing this? Making a documentary? Yes. Unlike some people, I'm not hiding from the truth. That's not fair. Sienna and I... Don't, I cut him off. Don't say her name in my house. He sat heavily on the couch. The divorce papers. I'll sign them, but I want joint custody. Absolutely not. That's my child, too. The child you were so concerned about while sleeping with my sister? I laughed bitterly. The one you thought about during your press conference with her? We had to do something. Your video destroyed my career, my reputation. Your actions destroyed those things, I corrected him. I just pressed record. Leon leaned forward, his politician's mask cracking. What do you want from me, Melanie? Money? I'll give you whatever you want. Just stop this documentary. What I want? I felt my baby kick, as if reinforcing my resolve. I want you to feel what I felt. I want you to know what it's like to have your whole world exposed as a lie. It wasn't all a lie. His voice softened. We had good years, didn't we? Did we? Or was I just a convenient stepping stone for your ambitions? Wendy appeared in the doorway. Everything okay in here? Fine. Leon stood up. I'll have my lawyer contact yours about the custody arrangements. Don't bother, I said. You'll get supervised visitation. That's my final offer. You can't do this. Actually, she can, Wendy interjected. And before you argue, remember that video evidence of adultery tends to influence family court judges. Leon's face reddened. Mother, whose side are you on? The side of right and wrong, she replied calmly. Something I clearly failed to teach you properly. After Leon stormed out, Sarah poked her head in. Everything okay? Because that would have made amazing footage. It's fine, I managed a smile. But I think I know what I want to film next. What's that? I want to interview other mothers-in-law, women who've had to choose between loyalty to their children and loyalty to what's right. Wendy's eyes welled up. Oh dear. Would you be my first interview? I asked her. She wiped her eyes. Of course, but first, you need to try on these clothes and eat something. That baby needs nourishment. As Wendy fussed over me, Sarah started setting up the equipment again. Parker came in with a fresh memory card. You okay? He asked quietly. That couldn't have been easy. Actually, it was. I touched my bump gently. For the first time since this all happened, I feel like I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. Speaking of where you're supposed to be, Sarah interrupted. Your first interview with another betrayed wife is tomorrow. She's a corporate lawyer whose husband had an affair with his assistant. Classic, Parker muttered. Not classic, I corrected him. Real, painful, important. That's what this documentary's about. The real stories behind the headlines and cliches. Wendy returned with a plate of fruit. Eat. Then we'll film my interview. I have quite a few things to say about my son's behavior. Are you sure? I asked. He's still your son. Yes, and I love him. But loving someone doesn't mean excusing their mistakes. She straightened my dress collar. Now, let's show the world what real family loyalty looks like. I picked up a strawberry, watching my crew prepare for the next shot. 6 months ago, I'd been playing the perfect political wife. Now I was creating something real, something honest, something that might actually help others. Maybe betrayal hadn't destroyed my life after all. Maybe it had just shown me who I really was. The coffee shop was neutral territory, which is why I agreed to meet Sienna there. 7 months pregnant and deep into filming, I hadn't seen my sister since the baby shower disaster. Parker insisted on coming with me, camera in hand. "We don't have to film this," he said as we walked in. "Yes, we do. The story isn't complete without her side." Sienna was already there, fidgeting with her cup. Her baby bump was visible now, smaller than mine, but unmistakable. She stood when she saw me, uncertainty written across her face. "Mel," she started. "Sit down," I said, lowering myself carefully into a chair. "You wanted to talk. So talk." She glanced at Parker's camera. "Does that have to be here?" "You didn't mind cameras when you were doing press conferences with Leon." Sienna flinched. "I deserve that. I deserve all of it. But please, can we talk just as sisters first?" I nodded to Parker, who stepped back but kept rolling. "Sisters?" I laughed quietly. "Is that what we are?" I know I ruined everything. Tears welled in her eyes. "But you have to understand, I never meant to fall in love with my husband, to get pregnant with his child, to destroy my marriage. Any of it." She wiped her eyes. "It just happened, and then it kept happening, and I couldn't stop. Couldn't or wouldn't." A waitress approached with my decaf tea. The normalcy of the moment, 2 pregnant sisters having coffee, felt surreal. "Both," Sienna admitted. He made me feel special, important, like I wasn't just your screw-up little sister anymore." And now? Does he make you feel special when he's meeting with his lawyers about custody arrangements? When he's trying to salvage what's left of his career? She stared into her cup. He's different now, distant. The press coverage, losing the election nomination. He's not the same person. "He's exactly the same person," I corrected her. "You're just seeing him clearly for the first time." Parker moved closer with the camera as Sienna's tears fell faster. "Mom and Dad won't talk to me anymore," she whispered. "They say they're ashamed." "That's rich, considering how they defended you both at first. They were trying to protect the family name, but now," she placed a hand on her bump, "now they say I've ruined everything. The family, your marriage, my own future." For the first time, I felt a flicker of sympathy. "You did ruin those things, but maybe that's not the end of the story." She looked up, hope crossing her face. "What do you mean?" "My documentary. It's not just about exposing affairs. It's about what happens after. How people rebuild or don't. How families either heal or fall apart completely." "And which are we?" she asked softly. "I don't know yet. But I do know this. I'm not angry anymore. I'm just disappointed. In you, in Leon, in how easily you both threw away everything that mattered." A kick from my baby made me wince. Sienna noticed. "Do you know what you're having?" "A girl. You. A boy." She smiled sadly. "They'll be cousins." "They'll be something," I agreed. "But what that looks like depends on you. On whether you're really sorry or just sorry you got caught." Parker's camera caught the moment Sienna broke down completely. "I'm sorry for everything," she sobbed. "For betraying you, for the press conference, for not being a better sister. I don't expect forgiveness, but please, please don't cut me out completely." I took a sip of my tea, letting the moment stretch. "So, I'm interviewing women who've been through similar situations," I finally said. "Some have reconciled with their families, some haven't, but they all had to face the truth first." "What truth?" "That actions have consequences. That 'I'm sorry' doesn't fix everything. That rebuilding trust takes more than tears and promises." She nodded slowly. "I want to do better. To be better. For my son, if nothing else." "Then prove it." I stood up, one hand supporting my back. "Start by telling the truth on camera. No more love story spin, no more excuses. Just honesty." Now? Now? I nodded to Parker, who adjusted his camera. Tell everyone what really happened, Sienna. Not the press conference version. The truth. She took a deep breath, looking directly into the lens. My name is Sienna, and I slept with my sister's husband. This is what really happened. As she began to speak, I watched my little sister finally take responsibility for her actions. It wasn't forgiveness, not yet. But maybe it was a start. Parker caught my eye over the camera, giving me a thumbs up. This was the raw honesty my documentary needed. The messy, painful truth about betrayal and its aftermath. My daughter kicked again, stronger this time. I pressed my hand to the spot, thinking about the future. About two cousins who didn't ask for any of this drama. About sisters who might, someday, find a way forward. But first, we had to tell the truth. All of it. No matter how much it hurt. 5 minutes to screening, Sarah called out across the private theater. My heart was racing as I watched the industry professionals and early viewers file in. 8 months pregnant and wearing a dress Wendy had picked out, I stood in the back, gripping Parker's arm. The documentary was finally ready for its first test audience. Breathe, Parker whispered. You've got this. What if they hate it? What if it's too personal? That's exactly why they'll love it. Isabel appeared with a glass of water. Because it's real. The lights dimmed. My stomach clenched as the opening scene began. The security camera footage that had started everything, but now intercut with interviews, revealing the deeper story behind the viral scandal. Leon's voice filled the theater. I lost everything because I couldn't be honest. With my wife, with myself, with anyone. Then Sienna. We thought we were living some great love story, but we were just two selfish people destroying someone we claimed to love. I felt movement beside me. Wendy had arrived, taking my other arm. You should be sitting down, she whispered. I can't. I need to watch their reactions. On screen, the story expanded beyond my personal drama. A CEO's wife described discovering her husband's decade-long affair. A teacher shared how her sister had betrayed her with her fiancé. Each story wove together with mine, creating a tapestry of betrayal, resilience, and redemption. Halfway through, I heard sniffling from the audience. Several women were wiping their eyes. A few men shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Then came the scene that still hurt to watch, my confrontation with Leon over custody. You can't keep my child from me! His voice boomed through the speakers. I'm not, my on-screen self replied calmly. I'm protecting her from learning the wrong lessons about love and loyalty. The theater grew silent as the scene played out. I felt my baby kick, as if she knew we were watching her father. Suddenly, a sharp pain shot through my abdomen. I grabbed Parker's arm tighter. You okay? He whispered. Just Braxton Hicks, I assured him, though something felt different this time. The documentary continued, showing Sienna's raw confession at the coffee shop, followed by interviews with therapists discussing the psychology of infidelity and betrayal. Then came Wendy's powerful testimony about choosing truth over family loyalty. Another pain hit, stronger this time. Wendy noticed my grimace. Melanie? She touched my arm. Is it time? No, it can't be. I'm not due for another week. The film reached its climax. A montage of all the women interviewed, including me, talking about moving forward. About finding strength in vulnerability. About turning pain into purpose. As the final scene faded to black, I felt liquid running down my leg. Oh God, I whispered. The lights came up as the credits rolled. The audience burst into applause, but I barely heard it through the rushing in my ears. My water just broke, I announced quietly. Parker sprang into action. Sarah, we need to get Melanie to the hospital. The applause turned to concerned murmurs as Sarah rushed over. But the Q&A session, she started. We'll have to wait, Wendy cut in firmly. This baby has her own timing. Isabel already had her phone out. I'm calling your doctor. As they helped me toward the exit, a voice called out from the audience. Is everything okay? The star of our documentary is about to become a mother, Sarah announced. I'd say that's a perfect ending, wouldn't it? more applause erupted, along with calls of "good luck" and "congratulations." In the car, between contractions, I called Sienna. We'd been talking more since her interview, taking small steps toward healing. "It's happening," I told her. "Your niece is coming." "Now? But the screening." Apparently, she wanted to make her own dramatic entrance. Another contraction hit. "Listen, I know we planned to wait, but would you come to the hospital? Not in the room, but nearby?" The line went quiet for a moment. "Really? You want me there?" "You're still my sister, and she's still your niece." Parker drove while Wendy held my hand in the back seat. Isabel followed in her car with my hospital bag. "Should we call Leon?" Wendy asked quietly. I shook my head. "The custody agreement says he gets notified after she's born, not before." Another contraction came as we pulled up to the hospital. Through the pain, I thought about the documentary, about all the women who'd shared their stories of survival. Now I was about to write the next chapter of my own story. "The screening!" I gasped as they helped me out of the car. "We didn't even get to hear what they thought." "Are you kidding?" Parker grinned. "Your baby just gave us the most dramatic ending possible. They loved it." As they wheeled me into the hospital, I realized he was right. This wasn't just an ending, it was a beginning. For me, for my daughter, for all the women who would see their own stories reflected in mine. "Ready?" Wendy squeezed my hand. I nodded through another contraction. Ready for everything. And the award for Best Documentary Feature goes to After the Affair, Stories of Betrayal and Redemption by Melanie Hall. The audience erupted in applause as I made my way to the stage, my 4-month-old daughter Emma sleeping peacefully against my chest in her carrier. This wasn't how acceptance speeches usually went at prestigious film festivals, but I'd refused to leave her with anyone else. "Thank you," I began, adjusting the microphone. This film started as an act of revenge, but it became something much more important. To all the women who shared their stories, who turned their pain into power, this is for you. In the front row, I saw Wendy dabbing her eyes. Next to her sat Sienna, her own son nestled in her arms. Our children, born just 2 weeks apart, had become an unexpected bridge between us. "To my daughter," I continued, touching Emma's back gently, "who kicked through every interview and made her grand entrance at our first screening. You taught me that new beginnings can come from broken endings." After the ceremony, the theater lobby buzzed with conversation. Critics and industry professionals crowded around, but I was focused on the group of women gathered near the refreshment table. My documentary subjects, all here to celebrate. "You did us proud." Maria, the CEO's wife, hugged me carefully around Emma. "My divorce was finalized yesterday, and watching this film reminded me why I'm stronger for walking away." Speaking of walking away, Isabel appeared with her phone. "Have you seen the news? Leon's political comeback attempt just failed spectacularly." "I heard," I nodded. "Turns out voters have long memories when it comes to scandal." "Good," Wendy joined us. "Maybe now he'll focus on being a decent father during his visitation hours instead of chasing power." Parker approached with a champagne flute of ginger ale. "Sorry to interrupt, but Netflix is interested. They want to turn this into a series, featuring new stories each episode." "Really?" I shifted Emma, who was starting to stir. "That's exactly what these stories deserve," Sienna finished, stepping forward. "More platforms, more voices, more truth." Looking at my sister, I saw genuine change in her eyes. The past months hadn't been easy. There were still awkward family dinners and tense moments, but we were finding our way forward. "Will you help?" I asked her. "With the series? Your interview was one of the most powerful parts of the film." "You want me to work with you?" "As a producer, you understand both sides of betrayal now. That perspective could be valuable." She blinked back tears, careful not to disturb her sleeping son. "I'd like that." "Speaking of perspective," Sarah called from across the lobby. "The Hollywood Reporter review is in. They're calling it a raw, unflinching look at infidelity, that somehow manages to find hope without forgiveness. Without forgiveness? My mother's voice came from behind me. I turned to find both my parents standing there, looking uncertain. Dad? Mom? I didn't know you were coming. Wendy invited us, my father said gruffly. We've been wrong about a lot of things. We watched the documentary last week, my mother added. It helped us understand everything. Emma chose that moment to wake up, her tiny fists waving. My mother's eyes locked onto her granddaughter. May I? She asked hesitantly. I carefully transferred Emma to her arms, watching as my daughter worked her usual magic. My mother's face softened instantly. She looks just like you did as a baby, she whispered. Strong like her mother, too, my father added. Parker appeared with his camera, ever the documentarian. Mind if I capture this? Might be good for the series pitch. I nodded, watching through his viewfinder as my fractured family began to heal. Sienna showing her son to our father, Wendy discussing Netflix negotiations with Sarah, Isabel coordinating with other documentary subjects about future interviews. Emma's happy gurgle drew my attention back to the present moment. You know, my mother said quietly, when you first posted that video, I thought you were destroying our family. But you weren't, were you? You were forcing us to face the truth. Truth hurts sometimes, I replied, but lies hurt more. And now? She asked. What truth are you chasing next? I looked around the lobby at all these strong women, each with their own story of survival. At my sister, learning to live with her choices. At my daughter, who would grow up knowing her mother's strength. Now? I smiled. Now we tell more stories. We give more voices to the voiceless. We show that betrayal doesn't have to be the end of your story. It can be the beginning of a better one. Emma reached for me, and I took her back, breathing in her sweet baby scent. Ready to make more movies, little one? I whispered. She grabbed my necklace, the one Wendy had given me in the hospital, and gurgled again. I'll take that as a yes, Parker laughed, still filming. Standing there, surrounded by family, both old and new, broken and rebuilt, I finally felt complete. Not because I'd won an award, or because I'd gotten revenge, but because I'd found my voice again. And this time, I was never going to let anyone silence it. I stood in the corner of my sister's extravagant baby shower, watching her hold court like a queen bee among her adoring subjects. The crystal champagne flute in my hand remained untouched as I observed Summer, radiant in her designer maternity dress, laughing at something one of her friends had whispered. My name is Hayden, and I've spent my entire life being the responsible one, the steady one, the one who never quite measured up to my younger sister's dazzling presence. Today was no different. Oh my God, did you see what Hayden's wearing? Summer's voice carried across the room, deliberately loud enough for me to hear. I told her this was a formal event. I glanced down at my navy blazer and tailored pants, perfectly appropriate attire for any occasion. But of course, it wasn't pink and frilly enough for Summer's Instagram-worthy celebration. Riley, my best friend since childhood, appeared at my side. Don't let her get to you, she whispered, squeezing my arm. You look fantastic. I'm fine, I replied, though the knot in my stomach suggested otherwise. Someone needs to stay sober enough to handle the gift list. The afternoon dragged on with forced smiles and passive-aggressive comments until we reached the gift opening ceremony. I'd spent weeks designing and commissioning a custom-made mobile for the nursery, incorporating elements of our shared childhood memories. Next up, announced Summer's friend Melissa, is Hayden's gift. Summer tore through the careful wrapping, her perfectly manicured nails making quick work of my hours of preparation. She lifted the mobile, her expression shifting from anticipation to barely concealed disappointment. Oh, how crafty, she said, setting it aside without a second glance. Moving on. I felt my cheeks burn as several guests exchanged knowing looks. Riley's hand found mine under the table, squeezing tight. Actually, I spoke up, my voice stronger than I felt. Each charm represents a moment from our childhood. The butterfly is from Dad's garden, the star from... Seriously, Hayden? Summer cut me off, rolling her eyes. Nobody wants to hear about your DIY project right now. We're celebrating my baby, not your... whatever this is. The room fell silent. I could feel every eye on me, waiting for my response. I just thought, "That's your problem," Summer interrupted again, her voice dripping with disdain. "You always think too much. While you're busy thinking, the rest of us are actually living. I mean, look at you, 32, single, and what do you have to show for it? You're practically a nobody." The words hit like physical blows. I'd heard Summer's casual cruelty before, but never so publicly, never so deliberately meant to wound. "Summer!" Our mother's scandalized voice broke through the tension. "Apologize to your sister." Summer waved her hand dismissively. "Oh, Mom, I'm just being honest. Besides, Hayden knows I'm right. Don't you, sis?" I stood up slowly, my chair scraping against the hardwood floor. The room seemed to spin slightly as I gathered my purse. "Congratulations on your baby," I said, my voice steady despite the trembling in my hands. "I hope she grows up to be kinder than her mother." "Hayden, wait!" Riley called after me as I headed for the door. "Let her go," I heard Summer say. "She's always been dramatic. Now who's next? I see a Tiffany box." Outside, the spring air hit my face like a wake-up call. I made it to my car before the tears started, but they weren't tears of sadness. For the first time in my life, I felt something else burning through me. Determination. My phone buzzed with messages from Riley. "That was horrible. Are you okay? Want me to come over? She's such a witch. I can't believe she said that." I typed back, "I'm fine. Stay and keep track of everything. I need to know who witnessed this." Because in that moment, I made a decision. Summer had always gotten away with treating me like this because I let her. Because I was the good sister, the one who took the high road, the one who made excuses for her behavior. Not anymore. I started my car, my hands steady on the wheel, as I pulled away from the perfectly manicured suburban house with its perfectly arranged baby shower and my perfectly awful sister. "Nobody," I whispered to myself, tasting the word that would change everything. "We'll see about that." As I drove home, I couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't just another sisterly spat. This was the moment everything would change. Summer had always been the sun our family revolved around, but even the brightest stars can burn out. And I had a feeling her light was about to dim considerably. A week after the baby shower disaster, I was buried in work at my office when Riley's call lit up my phone. I almost ignored it. Deadlines don't meet themselves. But something about her third attempt in 5 minutes made me pause. "This better be good," I answered, pushing away from my desk. "I'm drowning in blueprints here." "Dominic left Summer." Riley's voice crackled with urgency. "Like, packed his bags while she was at yoga left." My coffee cup froze halfway to my mouth. "What?" It gets worse. He cleaned out their joint account first." I sank back into my chair, my mind racing. "But she's 7 months pregnant." "He left a note," Riley continued. "Said he couldn't handle her anymore, that the baby shower was the last straw. Apparently, he watched how she treated you and realized she'd never change." A hollow laugh escaped me. "So my public humiliation was his wake-up call? That's ironic. She's been calling everyone, crying about how she can't afford the mortgage on her boutique salary alone. Your mom's not answering. She's still on that cruise with her new husband." I rubbed my temples, fighting the satisfaction that threatened to surface. "How do you know all this?" "I'm at her house now. It's bad, Hayden. She's talking about selling everything." Through the phone, I heard Summer's voice in the background, high-pitched and hysterical. "The Cartier bracelet. He bought it for our anniversary. That bastard." "Hold on," Riley said to me, then away from the phone. "Summer, put down the scissors. That dress costs more than my car." I heard shuffling, a crash, and Summer's voice again. "I don't care. He bought it for the charity gala. Everything he touched has to go." "Hayden!" Riley's voice returned, urgent. I have to go before she destroys evidence we might need for the divorce lawyer. Just think about calling her, okay? She's still your sister." The line went dead, leaving me in my silent office. I stood and walked to the window, watching the city bustle below. This was the moment I'd been waiting for, Summer's perfect life crumbling around her. I should have felt triumphant. Instead, I felt hollow. My phone buzzed again. This time it was Summer. I let it ring 4 times before answering. "Hello? Hayden?" Her voice was small, nothing like the confident woman who'd torn me down a week ago. I need help." "What happened to nobody being able to help you?" A sharp intake of breath. "I deserve that. But please, I don't know what to do. Dominic's gone and I can't. She dissolved into sobs. Real ones, not the manipulative tears she'd perfected over the years. "Have you called Dad?" I asked, knowing the answer. "He's not returning my calls either." She sniffled. "Nobody is, except Riley. And now, you." I closed my eyes, remembering Grandpa Silas's words from one of his letters. "The true test of character isn't how you treat those who can help you, but how you help those who once hurt you." "Summer," I said finally, "stop destroying your clothes. I'll come over after work." "You will?" Hope crept into her voice. Even after, I confirmed, then added, "But this isn't a blank check, Summer. Things need to change." "I know," she whispered. "I know they do." After hanging up, I sat at my desk and pulled out Grandpa Silas's latest letter from my drawer. He'd sent it right after I told him about the baby shower, his familiar scrawl filling 3 pages with wisdom I hadn't been ready to hear. Sometimes, he'd written, "The universe has its own way of balancing the scales. Your job isn't to push them further, but to decide who you want to be when they settle." My phone lit up with a text from Riley. "She's calmer now, but fair warning, she's already talking about moving in with you." I smiled grimly. Summer didn't know it yet, but if she wanted my help, she'd have to do it my way. No more manipulations, no more princess act, no more treating people like stepping stones. Standing up, I gathered my things and told my assistant I was leaving early. As I drove toward Summer's house, I thought about the sister who'd once held my hand on the first day of school, who'd cried with me when Dad left, who'd somehow lost her way in the pursuit of perfection. This wasn't the revenge I'd imagined, but maybe it was something better. A chance to rebuild not just Summer's life, but our relationship. On my terms this time, I pulled into her driveway, noting the scattered designer clothes on the front lawn. Riley sat on the porch, looking exhausted. "Ready?" she asked as I approached. I nodded, squaring my shoulders. Ready to help her rebuild. But first, she needs to understand what it means to fall. Inside, I could hear Summer crying. It was time to teach my little sister the difference between being a somebody and being a good person, and this time, I wouldn't be the only one learning hard lessons. I found Summer sitting in her walk-in closet, surrounded by shredded designer dresses and torn shopping bags. Her mascara had created dark rivers down her cheeks, and her perfectly styled hair was now a tangled mess. "You came," she whispered, looking up at me with red-rimmed eyes. "I did." I remained in the doorway, maintaining my distance. "Are you done destroying everything?" She glanced around at the chaos she'd created. I wanted to hurt him back. "By cutting up clothes you bought with his money?" I raised an eyebrow. "That's not hurting him, Summer. That's hurting yourself." Riley appeared behind me with a steaming mug. "Here's your tea, Sum. I added honey, like you wanted." Summer took the mug but didn't drink. "What am I going to do? The baby's coming in 2 months, and I can't even make the mortgage payment next week." I crossed my arms. "Sell the house." "What?" Her head snapped up. "I can't. This is my dream home." "Dreams change," I said firmly. "Right now, you need practical solutions, not dreams." Summer's lower lip trembled. "But where would I go?" "I might have an idea," I said, pulling out Grandpa Silas's letter. "But first, I want you to read something." She took the letter reluctantly, her eyes scanning the pages. The greatest gift we can give ourselves is the courage to start over, she read aloud. Grandpa wrote this to you? After the baby shower, I confirmed. He's always had a way of seeing through our family drama. Summer's face crumpled. I was horrible to you that day. I've been horrible to you for years. Yes, you have. I'm sorry, she whispered. I shook my head. Sorry isn't enough this time, Summer. I need you to understand why you did it, why you've always done it. Riley quietly excused herself, leaving us alone in the closet full of destroyed dreams. I was jealous, Summer admitted after a long silence. Of what? I'm the nobody, remember? She flinched. You've always known who you are. Dad left, Mom remarried 3 times, but you stayed steady. I've been trying so hard to be perfect, because I thought if I was perfect enough, people wouldn't leave. How'd that work out? Hayden, please, she pleaded. I know I don't deserve your help, but I'm scared. I sat down beside her, careful not to touch any of the scattered clothing. Grandpa has a cottage near his place in Cedar Grove. It's small, but it's furnished and paid for. He's offered to let you stay there. Cedar Grove? But that's 3 hours away. Exactly. Away from this mess, away from the gossip, away from your old life. I picked up a shredded Gucci tag. Away from who you've become. Summer stared into her tea. Would you come with me? Just to help me get settled? I have conditions, I said firmly. First, you get therapy. Real therapy, not those life coaching sessions you brag about on Instagram. She nodded slowly. Second, you get a real job. The boutique isn't enough to support a baby. But I don't know how to do anything else, she protested. Grandpa knows people at the local community college. They have a business program you could start in the fall. Summer looked around her destroyed closet, then down at her pregnant belly. I really messed up, didn't I? Yes, I agreed. But messing up isn't the end. It's what you do after that matters. She picked up Grandpa's letter again. The universe has its own way of balancing the scales, she read. He's right. I've been awful to so many people, and now you have a choice, I finished. You can stay here and drown, or you can come to Cedar Grove and learn to swim. Summer was quiet for a long moment, then, will you help me pack what's left? I stood up and offered her my hand. I'll help you pack what you need, not what's left. The baby doesn't care about designer labels. As we sorted through the wreckage of her closet, separating practical items from the destroyed remnants of her old life, Summer paused. Why are you helping me? She asked. After everything I've done, you could have just let me fall. I thought about the satisfaction I'd felt hearing about Dominic leaving, about the revenge I'd wanted to take. Then I thought about Grandpa's words and the sister I used to know. Because letting you fall would make me like you, I said honestly. And I'd rather be a nobody with integrity than a somebody without it. Summer nodded, tears falling again, but different this time, quieter, more real. When can we leave? She asked. Tomorrow, I decided. New day, new start. As we continued packing, I sent a quick text to Grandpa Silas. She's ready to learn. We'll see you tomorrow. His response came quickly. Sometimes the longest journey starts with the shortest fall. Bring her home. The 3-hour drive to Cedar Grove stretched into 4 as we stopped twice for Summer's bathroom breaks. My sister sat quietly in the passenger seat, one hand resting on her belly, the other clutching her phone, still hoping for a message from Dominic that wouldn't come. You should turn it off, I suggested, glancing at the device. Give yourself some peace. I can't. She stared at the screen. What if he realizes he made a mistake? The only mistake, I said, turning onto the familiar country road that led to Grandpa's property, was thinking he wouldn't eventually see through the act. Summer's head snapped toward me. What's that supposed to mean? You know exactly what it means. The perfect wife, the perfect home, the perfect Instagram life. It was all an act. And acts get exhausting to watch. You don't understand, she protested. I had to. Had to what? Belittle everyone around you? Spend money you didn't have? Treat your own sister like dirt? The phone slipped from her fingers into her lap. I didn't mean to become this person. No one ever does. I pulled into the gravel driveway of the cottage. But you did, and now you get to decide who you want to be next. Grandpa Silas was waiting on the porch, his weathered face creasing into a smile as we approached. Summer hadn't seen him since Christmas, when she'd complained about the quaint holiday dinner and insisted on leaving early for a social event. "There's my girls!" he called out, descending the steps with surprising agility for his age. Summer hung back, but he wrapped her in a hug anyway. "None of that now," he said firmly. "This is home for as long as you need it." The cottage was small but charming, with 2 bedrooms and a view of the lake through pine trees. Summer walked through it slowly, taking in the worn but comfortable furniture, the handmade quilts, the distinct lack of luxury she was used to. "The nearest Starbucks is 40 minutes away," I informed her, watching her reaction carefully. She surprised me by laughing, a short, bitter sound. "I guess I'll have to learn to make my own coffee." "You'll have to learn to make a lot of things," Grandpa said, settling into his favorite armchair. "Starting with peace with yourself." Summer sank onto the couch, looking smaller than I'd ever seen her. "I don't know how." "That's why you're here." He pulled an envelope from his pocket. "Your first step is in here." She opened it with trembling fingers, pulling out a printed schedule. "What's this?" "Your new life," I explained. "Morning shifts at the local diner starting next week. Afternoon appointments with Dr. Marshall. She's a therapist who specializes in life transitions. Evening classes at the community college once the baby comes." "A diner?" Summer's voice rose. "I can't work at a diner. I don't know how to—" "You'll learn," Grandpa interrupted firmly. "Just like your sister learned when she stayed here after your father left." Summer turned to me, surprised. "You stayed here?" "For 6 months," I nodded. "While you were busy following Mom to spa retreats, I was here, waiting tables, and figuring out who I wanted to be." "I didn't know." "You never asked." Grandpa cleared his throat. "The past is done. What matters is now. Are you ready to do the work, Summer?" She looked around the cottage again, then down at her schedule. "Do I have a choice?" "You always have a choice," he said. "But choosing to stay means choosing to change. Really change, not just pretend to." "And if I don't want to change?" she challenged, a flash of her old self showing through. I stood up. "Then you can call Riley to pick you up. I'm sure your destroyed designer clothes miss you." Summer's defiance crumbled. "I'm sorry, I don't know how to be anyone else." "That's why we start small," Grandpa said gently. "Tomorrow, you'll learn to make coffee. Next week, you'll learn to serve it. The rest will come." I watched my sister absorb this, saw the moment she realized there was no easy way out, no quick fix, no social media solution to her problems. "Will you stay?" she asked me. "Just for a few days?" "I'll come back on weekends," I promised. "But this journey? It's yours to make." Grandpa stood, his joints creaking. "I'll leave you girls to get settled. Dinner's at 6. We eat together in the main house. No phones allowed." After he left, Summer walked to the window, staring out at the lake. "I used to love coming here as kids. Remember how we'd swim all day? Before you discovered designer swimsuits and country club pools?" She winced. "I really have been awful, haven't I?" "Yes," I agreed. "But you're here now. That's something." She turned to face me, one hand protectively over her belly. "I don't want my daughter to be like me." "Then show her how to be different," I said simply. "Starting tomorrow, with coffee." Summer nodded, and for the first time since Dominic left, I saw something new in her eyes. Not fear or anger or denial, but determination. Maybe, just maybe, my sister was ready to become somebody worth being. 3 weeks into Summer's new life, I drove up to Cedar Grove for my weekend visit and found her sitting on the cottage steps, reading through a stack of old letters. "Look what I found in the attic," she called out as I approached. Her hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail, her face free of makeup. a far cry from the polished socialite of a month ago. "What are they?" I settled beside her, noting the familiar handwriting. "Letters from Dad." She handed me one. "Grandpa kept them all, even the ones we never saw." My heart thumped as I unfolded the yellowed paper. Dad's distinctive scrawl filled the page. "Dear Dad, I know I've made a mess of things. The girls deserve better than a father who runs when things get tough." Hayden looks at me with such disappointment, and Summer, she's already learning to hide her hurt behind that bright smile. "He knew," Summer whispered. "He knew what I was becoming, even back then." I skimmed through more letters, each one a window into our father's guilt and regret. "Why didn't Grandpa show us these?" I asked him that this morning. Summer shifted, adjusting her growing belly. "He said we weren't ready to understand them until now." The screen door creaked, and Grandpa emerged with a tray of lemonade. "Thought you girls might be thirsty." "Why now?" I asked, holding up the letters. "Why show us these now?" He settled into the porch rocker, his eyes distant. "Because now you're both old enough to see that running away doesn't fix anything. Your father ran from his problems. Summer, you ran from yourself. And Hayden, you've been running from your anger." Summer picked up another letter. "There's one here from right after my sweet 16. He was there, wasn't he? Watching from across the street?" Grandpa nodded. "He came to every important event, stayed just out of sight, said he didn't deserve to be part of your lives after what he'd done." "Coward," I muttered. "Maybe," Grandpa agreed, "but he was a coward who never stopped loving you. Sometimes love isn't enough to make people brave." Summer touched her belly. "I don't want my daughter to have a father who watches from across the street." "Then maybe it's time to tell Dominic that," I suggested gently. She shook her head. "He won't answer my calls." "No," Grandpa said, "but he answers mine." We both stared at him. "He calls every week to check on you," he continued, looking at Summer. "Wants to make sure you're okay, that the baby's healthy. He's staying with his brother in Milwaukee." Summer's hands trembled. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because you needed to find yourself first. Can't fix a marriage when you're still broken yourself." I watched my sister absorb this information, saw the old Summer start to surface, the one who would demand immediate action, who would rush off to Milwaukee without a plan. But then something shifted in her expression. "I'm not ready," she said quietly. I need to be better first." Grandpa smiled. "That's my girl." A car pulled into the diner across the street, and Summer stood up. "That's my cue. My shift starts in 10 minutes. How's that going?" I asked, still amazed that my designer-obsessed sister was waiting tables. "I dropped 3 plates last week," she admitted. "But Maria, she's the owner, she just laughed and said everyone drops plates their first month. No one yelled or posted about it on social media. They just helped me clean up and move on." I watched her gather her apron and name tag, noticed how she moved with a different kind of confidence now. Not the brittle, artificial kind she'd worn like armor in her old life, but something more genuine. "Oh!" She paused at the bottom of the steps. "I got my first tip yesterday. Real money I earned myself. I'm thinking of starting a savings account for the baby." Pride swelled in my chest. That's really great, Summer." After she left, Grandpa and I sat in comfortable silence, watching the late afternoon sun filter through the trees. "Found something else in the attic," he said finally, pulling an envelope from his pocket. "Your father's current address." My breath caught. "Why are you showing me this?" "Because sometimes the hardest bridges to rebuild are the ones we've spent the longest burning." He placed the envelope between us. "Just something to think about." I stared at it, thinking about Dad watching from across streets, writing letters he never sent, carrying guilt I never knew about. "Summer's not the only one who needs to heal," Grandpa added softly. Across the street, I could see Summer through the diner window, carefully balancing a coffee pot as she moved between tables. She caught my eye and waved, a real smile lighting up her face. I picked up the envelope. Maybe next weekend," If Summer wants to come too. Grandpa squeezed my hand. The thing about bridges, he said, is that they're easier to cross when you're not alone. Looking at the address in my hands, I realized he was right. Maybe it was time for both sisters to stop running. Your father lives in a trailer park? Summer pressed her face against my car window as we pulled into Riverside Mobile Home Community. Not what you expected? I kept my voice neutral, though I shared her surprise. I always imagined him in some fancy apartment, living the high life without us. She rubbed her 8 months pregnant belly nervously. This is different. We found lot 17 at the end of a well-maintained row. Dad's trailer was small but neat, with potted plants lining the wooden steps and a wind chime tinkling in the breeze. We can still leave, I offered, killing the engine. Summer shook her head. No, I need to do this. We need to do this. Before we could exit the car, the door opened and our father stepped out. He'd aged more than I expected. His dark hair now mostly gray, new lines etched deeply around his eyes. He froze when he saw us, one hand gripping the railing. Girls? His voice cracked. Silas said you might come, but I didn't. Hello, Dad, I managed, helping Summer out of the car. His eyes widened at her pregnant belly. I'm going to be a grandfather? If you stick around this time, Summer said sharply, then immediately softened. Sorry. Old habits. He flinched but nodded. I deserve that. Please, come in. I'll make coffee. Or tea, if that's better for the baby. The inside of the trailer was surprisingly cozy. Photographs covered one wall. School pictures, graduation shots, even recent ones I recognized from social media. You've been following us online? Summer asked, touching a picture of herself at her wedding. Every day. Dad's hands shook as he prepared 3 mugs. I know I had no right, but I needed to see you grow up, even if it was through a screen. You could have called, I said, written, anything. He sat heavily in a worn armchair. After a while, the shame gets too big. Every year that passed made it harder to reach out. How do you apologize for abandoning your children? You don't, Summer said firmly. You just show up, like we're doing now. Dad's eyes filled with tears. Why did you come, after all this time? I pulled out one of his letters to Grandpa. Because we found these. Because we're both learning that running away doesn't fix anything. And because, Summer added, I don't want my daughter born into a family of broken bridges. Dad wiped his eyes. Daughter? It's a girl? Summer nodded, then gasped suddenly, grabbing her stomach. What's wrong? I jumped up. Nothing. She's just kicking. Summer reached for Dad's hand. Do you want to feel? The moment his hand touched her belly, his face crumpled. I'm so sorry. For everything. For not being brave enough to stay. For missing your lives. For... Stop, I interrupted. We didn't come for apologies. We came because... I looked at Summer, who nodded encouragingly. Because we're all trying to be better people now. Dad's phone buzzed, and I glimpsed a familiar face on the screen. Is that Grandpa? Summer asked. Do you talk to him often? Every Sunday, Dad admitted. He never gave up on me, even when he should have. He's the one who convinced me to stay nearby, to keep trying to find the courage to reach out. Why a trailer park? I asked the question that had been nagging me. He gestured to the photos. After I left, I sent most of my money to Silas, for you girls. College funds, emergency savings. It felt like the least I could do. This place, it's what I could afford, and honestly, it's more home than anywhere else I've lived. Summer touched a recent photo of herself at the diner, wearing her apron and genuine smile. How did you get this? Silas sends me updates. Said you're doing really well there. I am. She sat on the couch, looking around the small space with new eyes. It's funny. A month ago, I would have been horrified by all this. Now I understand that home isn't about the size of the space. Dad's phone buzzed again. Grandpa, checking in. Should I tell him you're here? I nodded. Tell him. Tell him the bridges are shaky, but we're crossing them. Together, Summer added, then grimaced. But first, tell me where the bathroom is. Your granddaughter is using my bladder as a trampoline. As Summer waddled to the bathroom, Dad turned to me. I don't deserve this chance. No, I agreed. But Summer didn't deserve her second chance either. Neither did I. Maybe that's not what family is about. He picked up a photo of us as children, back when we were whole. What is it about then? We're still figuring that out, I said, watching Summer return, one hand on her belly, the other trailing along the wall of photos, the timeline of everything we'd missed together. But I think it starts with showing up. And staying, Summer added quietly. Dad nodded, understanding the weight of that word. I'd like that. To stay, I mean. If you'll let me. Outside, the wind chime sang its gentle song, and somewhere in Cedar Grove, Grandpa was probably smiling, knowing his broken family was finally learning to mend. The call came at 3 a.m. Dominic was standing on Grandpa's porch, asking to see Summer. He just showed up? I asked Riley over the phone as I threw clothes into an overnight bag. What triggered this? Apparently, your dad reached out to him. Riley's voice was thick with sleep. Told him about Summer's transformation, the diner job, everything. I grabbed my keys. I'm on my way. Don't let them talk until I get there. 3 hours later, I pulled up to find Dominic sitting on the porch steps, while Summer watched him from behind the cottage curtains. Grandpa stood guard between them, looking remarkably alert for dawn. She won't see me, Dominic said as I approached. He looked different, humbler somehow, his designer clothes replaced by worn jeans and a simple t-shirt. Can you blame her? I crossed my arms. You cleaned out her account and left her with a note. I know. He ran his hands through his hair. I was a coward, but I couldn't watch her become more and more toxic. It was killing both of us. Summer's voice came from behind me. So you decided to kill our marriage instead? We turned to find her in the doorway, one hand protectively over her belly. She wore her diner uniform. She'd insisted on keeping her morning shifts despite being 8.5 months pregnant. Summer, Dominic breathed. You look different. Amazing what happens when you stop hiding behind designer labels and Instagram filters. She descended the steps carefully. Why are you here? Your father called me, said you were changing, really changing. I didn't believe him at first, but then he sent me this. He pulled out his phone, showing a video of Summer at the diner, laughing with customers, handling plates with growing confidence. You've been spying on me? No, Grandpa interrupted. I've been showing him who you're becoming. There's a difference. Summer sat on the porch swing, her exhaustion visible. I have a shift in 2 hours. I know, Dominic said. Maria, she's your boss, right? She says you're one of her best new hires. Never thought I'd hear my wife being praised for serving coffee. Ex-wife, Summer corrected. You made that pretty clear when you left. I never filed the papers. His admission hung in the morning air. I couldn't. I stepped forward. If this is about the baby, it's not. Dominic moved closer to Summer. It's about seeing you smile again. Real smiles, not the practiced ones you used to wear at charity events. It's about watching you build something real instead of just maintaining appearances. Summer's hands trembled. You broke me. No, he said gently. I broke us. But maybe we needed to break to rebuild properly. I have a life here now, she said. A real one. With morning shifts and evening classes and therapy sessions that actually mean something. I can't go back to being that other person. I don't want you to. Dominic knelt before her. I want to know this version of you, the one who earns her own money and isn't afraid to get pancake batter on her clothes, the one who calls her sister just to talk, not to compete. I watched my sister's face, seeing the conflict there. Summer, I said softly, what do you want? She looked at Dominic, then at her belly, then at the diner across the street where her shift would start soon. I want to finish my shift. And then maybe we can talk. Really talk. Dominic nodded. I'll wait. No, she said firmly. If you want to talk, you'll have to work for it. Maria needs a dishwasher. Her last one quit yesterday. His eyes widened. You want me to wash dishes? Yes, I want you to understand what real work feels like. What earning your place feels like. Summer stood, adjusting her apron. Your choice. I couldn't help but smile as Dominic processed this ultimatum. The old Summer would have jumped at his return, desperate to maintain her perfect life. This Summer was setting terms. Okay, he said finally. I'll do it. Grandpa chuckled. I'll call Maria. Tell her she's getting 2 for 1 this morning. As Summer and Dominic walked toward the diner, I noticed how they maintained a careful distance, not touching, but not running either. Both learning to walk a new path. Think they'll make it? I asked Grandpa. He smiled, watching them cross the street. They've got a better chance now than they ever did in that big empty house. Real love grows better in honest soil than gilded gardens. I thought about how far we'd all come. Summer finding herself in a small-town diner, Dad building bridges from his trailer park, me learning that revenge isn't always about making someone fall, but sometimes about helping them stand back up. I'm heading to the main house to start breakfast, Grandpa said. Your father's coming over. Said something about wanting to learn my pancake recipe. Save me a seat, I called after him, watching the sun rise over Cedar Grove, painting everything in new light. Across the street, I could see Summer showing Dominic how to tie an apron. It wasn't a fairy tale ending. Those don't exist in real life. But maybe it was something better. A real beginning, built on honest work and earned trust. And sometimes that's worth more than all the designer labels in the world. The contractions started during Summer's evening shift at the diner. I watched from my usual booth as she paused mid-coffee pour, her face tightening with the first real pain. It's time, she announced calmly, setting down the coffee pot. Someone called Dominic at the hardware store. Maria rushed to the phone while I helped Summer to a chair. 2 months of washing dishes had turned into a real job for Dominic at the local hardware store, where he'd discovered he actually enjoyed working with his hands. Already did, Grandpa said from the counter, holding up his cell phone. He's on his way, your father too. Summer gripped my hand through another contraction. Remember when I said I wanted a designer hospital suite with a private chef? And a professional photographer to document the birth? I smiled. What changed? Everything. She breathed through the pain. I want Maria's chicken soup after, and maybe some of those terrible hospital ice chips everyone complains about. Dominic burst through the door, work dust still on his clothes. I'm here. Should I call the ambulance? Already done, Maria announced. They're 5 minutes out. Summer looked around the diner, at the regular customers who'd become friends, at Maria who'd become a mentor, at our father hovering anxiously by the door. I want everyone there, she declared, the whole messy, imperfect family. The waiting room became our temporary home as Summer's labor progressed. Dad paced nervous circles, while Grandpa solved crossword puzzles. Dominic alternated between the delivery room and updating us, his face showing both terror and joy. Remember the baby shower? I asked Riley, as we shared vending machine coffee. How different everything was. You mean when she called you a nobody? Riley shook her head. Feels like a lifetime ago. It was, Dad said, pausing his pacing. You were both different people then. A nurse appeared in the doorway. She's asking for her sister. I found Summer gripping the bed rails, sweat dampening her hair. Hey, nobody, she gasped. Ready to be an aunt? Ready when you are somebody, I replied, taking her hand. I was so wrong, she said between contractions. About everything, about what makes a person somebody. Save your strength, I told her. We can talk about... No, she insisted. I need to say this. You were always somebody. Somebody strong, somebody real. I was the nobody, hiding behind designer labels and fake smiles, Before I could respond, another contraction hit, and then everything happened fast. The room filled with medical staff. Dominic returned to hold her other hand, and suddenly a new voice filled the air. Strong, clear, and very unhappy about leaving its warm home. "It's a girl," the doctor announced, placing the screaming bundle on Summer's chest. "Hello, Hayden," Summer whispered. I froze. "What?" "If it's okay with you," Dominic said, "we want to name her after the strongest person we know." Tears blurred my vision as I looked at my niece. Red-faced, angry, and perfectly imperfect. "It's more than okay." The family filtered in slowly, Dad recording everything on his phone, Grandpa wiping tears behind his glasses, Riley cooing at the baby. Maria appeared with thermoses of her chicken soup, and even some of the diner regulars stopped by with handmade blankets and small gifts. "This isn't quite the society birth announcement you planned," I teased Summer gently. She looked around the crowded room, at our mismatched family in their work clothes and worried faces. "No," she agreed. "It's better. It's real." Baby Hayden chose that moment to cry, and everyone jumped to help. Dad grabbing diapers, Dominic adjusting pillows, Grandpa offering wisdom about colic. In the chaos, Summer caught my eye. "Thank you," she said softly, "for not letting me fall when you could have, for showing me what real strength looks like." I touched my niece's tiny hand. "That's what sisters are for." "Not all sisters," she corrected. "Just the good ones, the real ones." Later, as the family settled into chairs and shared Maria's soup, I watched them all. Dad showing Dominic how to swaddle, Riley posting decidedly unfiltered photos to social media, Grandpa telling stories about when Summer and I were babies. "Quite a change from that baby shower," Summer murmured, half asleep but still observing everything. "Life has a way of working out," I said. "Not always how we expect, but maybe how we need." She nodded, cradling her daughter. "I used to think being somebody meant having everything. Now I know it means being real enough to deserve what you have." Baby Hayden squirmed and opened her eyes, taking in her wonderfully imperfect family with what looked suspiciously like a smirk. "Look at that!" Grandpa chuckled. "She's got your real smile, Summer. Not the fake one, the good one." And he was right. In that moment, surrounded by soup and stories and second chances, we were all exactly who we needed to be. Not nobodies, not somebodies, just family. Real, messy, beautiful family.